App State visiting Coastal Carolina. App State is currently a 1-point favorite. App State's 4-4 on the year. Coastal Carolina also 4-4. And then you've got Florida Atlantic, FAU, taking on East Carolina. ECU is an 8.5-point favorite.
That line's jumped up a little bit. I like East Carolina at home. Not real big on FAU, but 8.5 seems like a lot.
Seems like a lot. So we'll see if Tom Herman will actually shake hands with the interim head coach of the East Carolina without getting his feelings hurt, like he did last week.
Even though that was just karma for what he did to USF
he
last year.
He wants to do an onside kick the year before. Now he's getting ticked off because the Russian is deciding to run the score up.
The way that Golish handled that,
no,
of just walking straight off the field, not even turning his head and acknowledging it, was great.
And I'm not being ugly. I mean, when I say Russian, he was born in Moscow.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not
been well documented here on the show.
Yeah, I'm not disparaging him.
He's the best Russian college football coach that's ever walked this earth.
No doubt. And if Russia ever decides to put a team in potentially for some type of, I don't know, he could be the flag football coach for Russia.
We'll loan him out.
Olympics.
But we're proud to have him here in the good old USA.
A guy that was born in Moscow and was the offensive coordinator in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Great family man, runs a clean program. And very nice. I got to meet him after the UAB South Florida game. He was not like Dana Holgerson.
Did he have an accent? Was it like broken English? Did you have an interpreter? I didn't know you knew Russian. Did he have any Cajun?
Just say vodka.
Hey, did he have any guys
vodka.
with sunglasses on, like walking around and
KGB? Yes, very much so. Moscow Mule.
Also, I want to point out that there's a couple of high school games of note tonight. Vestavia is visiting Mary Montgomery down in South Alabama.
Rebels.
Oh, Mary Mac.
And then you've got Hoover is hosting Fairhope tonight in high school football playoffs. So the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. I was making sure you were done.
Please, Molly.
Thank you. Well, as we move on through football season and the weather cools, make sure your HVAC system is ready for the cold weather on the way. For long-term reliability, a Trane Home Comfort System is your answer. And to give you peace of mind right now, you can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor with select Trane Comfort Systems. To learn more, go and visit Trane.com.
All right, so we announced earlier that Florida is going to give Billy Napier another year. Meanwhile, let's check in on how that Florida State program is going. I was going around some of the Florida State websites last night. I came across this message board post. I want to get your thoughts on this. This is from Knowles247. This is talking about Jimbo. That's right, Jimbo Fisher. What if Jimbo agreed to come back, take a massive pay cut to offset Norvell's buyout, like paid Jimbo $1 million a year until Norvell's buyout is over? I bet Jimbo would jump at the opportunity to get another big-time job. I know Jimbo skipped out on us, but a couple of top 5 classes, and he could bring this thing right back. I could forgive him.
Put down the crack pipe. Stop it. Stop it. There is no way.
This was from user Chris Medlock 19 on the Knowles247 message board.
That's desperation. If you actually have a legitimate fan that is calling for Jimbo Fisher to come back, it's laughable that Jimbo would take a pay cut.
Well, I was about to say, do you think he's more likely to take $1 million to go back to Florida State or $4 million to go to West Virginia? Because that's what they're paying.
My question is, stacking classes, what was he able to do with the talent that he amassed in College Station?
I was about to say, let's be honest. Jameis Winston was a phenomenal player. He has Jameis Winston to thank for pretty much all of the major success that he had as a head coach.
And the one national championship, you can thank maybe Trey Mason for scoring too quick.
And Kelvin Benjamin for being 6'9".
Yeah. With a vertical of 90 inches.
Yeah.
But I will give Chris Medlock 19 a lot of credit. That's creative. That's thinking out of the box.
Yeah.
Because Norvell's buyout is ridiculous. It would be Not quite what Jimbo's was at Texas A&M, but it's a healthy one.
I'm surprised we haven't heard more with the success that Colorado and Deion are having about Deion potentially going to Tallahassee.
There is a weird relationship, and FSU Dave,
Yeah.
maybe when we see him again or he can text into the show.
He has bad blood with them.
Yeah,
does he not?
there's something going on and has been for a long time between Deion and the school. Because if I'm not mistaken, Deion did not graduate from Florida State.
Correct.
He graduated from HBCU. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. So, and I don't know how many times he finds himself going back.
I was about to say, it's one of those things where I've never really heard him talk a whole lot
Hey,
about
you know
Florida
what?
State or.
I will ask Danny Kanell at 12 noon. Danny would know.
There you go.
Since Danny is one of the biggest name alums from the Florida State football program. See what he has to say. But
I'm with you, though. I would have thought that you would have heard more Deion now that they're good, and obviously with Shadur and Travis Hunter leaving, kind of.
Well, you can thank the parlaying the success that he had last season in the threat of somebody coming and taking him away at the end of last season when there were rumors out there that Alabama was pursuing him. Though I've been told that he wasn't even the third choice. He was the backup to the backup to the backup choice. But nobody's going to pay that money. You're stuck with him, and you're just going to have to grin and bear it.
well, I think what you're seeing, all kidding aside, whether it's Sam Pittman at Arkansas or Billy Napier at Florida, athletic programs are very nervous right now because you don't know what the landscape's going to look like next year because of the House settlement, how much money you're going to have to pay the players. You know, what's your budget going to look like? You know, what other limitations are you potentially going to have down the road? Do you really want to go jump off and pay Billy Napier $26 million to go away right now?
I also think the perception and how much of a reality it is across the board of parity in college football is helping a lot of these coaches stay an extra year longer than they would have 3 years ago.
I agree 100%. And not to mention the fact that people believe that there is a quicker path to get better because of the transfer portal and NIL than you had in the past. So it's that happy medium of getting really good recruits and being able to put them on the field and then be able to go get somebody out of the transfer portal. And I think that's why Auburn will definitely give Hugh Freeze the benefit of the doubt for at least another season.
So once again, who wins? The agents, the head coaches, and who's the loser? The fan who has to sit there through a potentially 1-11 season?
Yeah, because think about this.
2-10.
What happened to Nick Saban does not happen very often anymore in college sports.
Oh, where you get to walk away under
somebody. I mean, what happened with Bennett, Tony Bennett at Virginia? What happened to Coach Wright? You know, those things do not happen very often in college athletics anymore. Because typically when you sign somebody, you're ultimately going to have to fire them and then pay them off to not coach anymore.
Or, I mean, best case scenario, they're going to leave and go take another job somewhere else.
Yeah.
It will happen with Kyle Whittingham. It will happen. I'm guessing they'll give him the option of Mac Brown.
Well, yeah. He could step away at a moment's notice, though, and then change his mind, as we saw this year. Yeah, Kirby, I mean, if he wanted to, I'm sure he could stay as Georgia.
Well, I think in like Mac Brown's situation and Kyle Whittingham's, there's a golden parachute there. I mean, I mean, listen, let's be honest. I mean, Nick Saban's getting $500,000 a year for what? What's he doing? I'm not being ugly. I'm just saying what
No, I mean,
what do you believe Alabama has gotten $500,000 worth of marketing, advertising? Like, are they paying him $500,000 a year where he'll never pick against Alabama on game day?
I mean, I think your argument would be in the marketing standpoint, but also, I mean, he's Nick Saban. You don't really have to pay for that. It just kind of comes with him being who he is. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a valid point, and I always looked at it as it's a lifetime achievement award, right? Hey, you've done great things for us. We're going to pay you some money, and you can go and live your life and do whatever you want, and you have a little nest egg here. I would love that, personally. I would love if one day, you know, Ryan Haney said, hey, Connor, we're going to pay you $500,000 a year.
You don't get that now?
No, I'm only about 400.
Oh, good deal. You need to talk to your agent. Hey, when it comes to plumbing, always have a pro on standby. That's Iron Mountain Drain and Plumbing, rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. They're family owned and operated. They'll handle everything for you: faucet repairs, water heater maintenance, commercial plumbing, sewer line repairs, and so much more. Go to their website, ironmountainworld.com, or call them at 205-516-4927. Family owned, operated service company, ready to tackle any of those bothersome plumbing problems around your house. Always have that plumber on standby. Call Iron Mountain Drains and Plumbing, 205-516-4927. More of your text and calls. This is the Thursday edition of Three Man Front. So last night, the SEC's availability report comes out at 7 o'clock. Alabama had two players listed on their availability report. Keon Sabb and Cole Adams both listed as out. No surprise, Cole Adams will be on that availability report the rest of the year as out. No date yet when Sabb might come back, but those are the only two. Meanwhile, for LSU, that is a more lengthy list. Obviously, they've had some players that have been lost for the season, like a John Emery Jr. But Conrad, this is a pretty extensive list. I'm sitting here counting 7, 9, 12 players that are ruled out off their roster.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's not as lengthy as the Ole Miss section of the availability reports.
That's
that are
true.
Just,
Well, I think Lane does that on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Lane just does
Yes.
it just to make people irritated.
I 100% would agree with you. But yeah, I mean, there's and I mean, some of them, obviously, Perkins and Emery and guys that have been out
Yes.
for, a
But
significant
Dellinger
amount
was
of time.
added because he had the tightrope surgery, the starting left guard for LSU. He is
Mhm.
unavailable.
You got CJ Daniels, one of their better receivers. He's questionable.
Yep.
West Weeks, who I'm assuming is the brother of Whit Weeks, the guy that had 7 sacks a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, I mean,
He's questionable.
Alabama has been very fortunate on the injury front in terms of long-term injuries. When you only have 2 guys that have been
That's
down, that's very impressive. Just looking at the other availability reports for the other programs.
and we mentioned at LSU, a lot of these guys, whether it's Perkins or Emery, they've been out for a long time. But when you look at that list, and there's no question, and the word is out on 12 guys off their roster.
Mhm.
I mean, that's significant.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. But both teams coming off bye week, so hopefully you've gotten a little time to get healthy if you're Alabama, because we know there's some guys that are a little banged up, even if they're not listed on the report.
Is Ole Miss so long because of the faking injuries accusation, and they just want to include anybody who's gone down with a cramp at a critical time that could be viewed as just strategy and not
I think he
actually
does
being
it
injured?
as gamesmanship. That's what I think. I think
How long
Lane
is this?
Lane does it so that he can basically make someone try to prepare for guys, or is he going to be out? Is he not going to be there? Do we need to prepare for this guy? Do we not need to? That's what I think.
26 guys.
Just counted.
26 guys.
And that's the most of anybody, right?
I
On the
would hope
availability
so.
report.
Definitely.
Yeah, next closest.
Florida
you
has
got
a good
few.
bit.
Yeah, Florida's got a good bit. Oklahoma
And
has
those
a
are
good
legitimate
bit.
in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oklahoma's are legitimate.
Well, all theirs are receivers.
Yeah, does Oklahoma still? I don't have it in front of me. Does Oklahoma still have 5?
3, 6.
How many wide receivers are out for Oklahoma?
3.
Oh, they're
But-
improved.
But
But
one is questionable.
2 of
And
them
then
are
you got-
questionable.
Yeah.
I mean,
another
for the
guy's-
Auburn game, it was 5 out.
Yeah, and so now
It was-
3 of them are out, and the other 2 are questionable.
Oh, okay. Well, they're
Yeah.
trending in the right direction, I guess.
But I did think it was interesting that Vanderbilt listed Pavia on their injury report this week, but not last week.
Yeah, and he was a little
He wasn't
limping a little
100%.
bit towards the back end of the Auburn game.
Yeah, he's listed as probable though for South Carolina game.
Mm-hmm. So Conrad, as we're 48 hours away from Alabama LSU, how you feeling?
Nervous. So
Has there been a game
I'm-
in the past between Alabama and LSU? I heard Greg McElroy talking earlier about how the LSU game was like his favorite game to play.
yeah, I mean it's one of those that, I mean, outside of maybe 2020. I mean, that's really the only one I could think of off the top of my head where it was like, I'm not really worried about that game. It's going to be fine. So, no, I mean, it's a tough place to play. And that's really my concern is, not even just this year, but even going back the last couple years under Saban, it's just them going on the road in these hostile environments. For whatever reason, they're undisciplined. They struggle to communicate and they shoot themselves in the foot and put themselves in bad spots. So if they don't do those things, I think they have a great shot on Saturday, but I also don't really have any reason to think they won't do some of those things that have been problematic.
So Alabama has won 11 of the last 13 games against LSU. 11 of the last 13. So last year, Alabama was a 3-point favorite at home. They won and covered. In 2022, Alabama was a 13.5-point favorite,
Mm-hmm.
and LSU won in overtime.
By 1 point.
In 2021, Alabama was a 28.5-point favorite. Alabama won but did not cover.
That was a game where,
That was an ugly game.
yeah,
It was very close.
Now in 2020, that was supposed to be the bloodletting.
Mm-hmm.
That was the game that pretty much, in my opinion, sealed Devontae Smith's Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, that touchdown he had in the back of the end zone was his Heisman.
2021 was the year that they came to Tuscaloosa and Alabama kind of screwed around and LSU stayed in the game.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
That
when
was-
Max Johnson was their quarterback.
Correct.
Yep.
And Alabama had to stop them on the last drive, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. I was at a wedding watching that game
Yep.
because I thought, I'm not going to have to worry about this.
But that 2020 game, Bama was a 29-point favorite. Alabama won and covered
yeah.
in that game. Alabama went on to win the national championship. In 2019, we remember that one?
Yep. That was a great
Burrow
game.
versus Tua.
Mm-hmm.
If Tua had not fumbled going into the end zone.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, Alabama did score a touchdown late in the game that made it look a little better.
But I'm
In
talking
the
about the
box
beginning
score.
of the game. That
Oh.
kind of set the tone.
Yes.
Bama was a 5-point favorite over what some people consider the greatest team in the history of college football,
Mhm.
that 2019 LSU team.
Yep.
Bama was a 5-point favorite. LSU won. The year before in 18, Bama was a 2-touchdown favorite. Bama won and covered. In 2017, Bama was a 20.5-point favorite. They won but did not cover. 2016, Bama was a 7-point favorite. Alabama won and covered. In 2015, 2014, 2013, Bama won and covered. And the point spread was anywhere between 7.5 and 14 in those 3 years. So that gives you kind of a little snapshot. 11 of the last 13, and for the most part, Bama has covered in those games.
Just to give you a sneak peek, I think for LSU, even playing at home and playing at night in Tiger Stadium, I still view this team in this particular matchup. I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to have a career night. He is going to have to light it on fire throwing the football.
He's going to have to not turn the ball over.
Are you talking 400 plus yards, or are you just saying
I'm
throw
talking-
for 350 but have no turnovers?
No turnovers is absolutely a must, but 350 plus.
Okay.
Because I think that Alabama is going to put extra emphasis on stopping the run.
See, and that's the thing is it's because I'm with you is you look at the game and you go, well, you got to do everything you can. Like if they can run the ball, great, because they're not, throwing it. I think you want them to throw the football because Garrett Nussmeier against Ole Miss and against A&M had to throw it over 50 times, completed 50% of his passes, and threw 5 interceptions in those games. So that's what you want. You want him to throw the football in my mind because the more he throws it, the more likely you're going to get a turnover.
Who is drawing that matchup with Aaron Anderson?
Oh, I would assume that Damani Jackson's
Jackson.
going to be on Kyron Lacey, so I would guess it would be Zabian
Ian
Brown.
Brown?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would assume he'd be on because Kyron's their number one.
Yep.
Yep.
But
Don't
he's
forget about the tight end either.
he's their number one, but he's their number one by 4 yards and 5 catches.
Would be nice if he was still in Tuscaloosa.
If he didn't want to be there, you didn't want him there.
That's right. That's right.
Alabama's second in the SEC in interceptions with 11.
Speaking of Tuscaloosa, Rodney Orr, Tighter Insiders next. 11 o'clock here on Three Man Front. We continue this college football NFL Thursday. Auburn a winner in basketball last night. 94-43 over Vermont. Tigers shoot 54%, almost 46% from three-point range. They moved to 1-0, but they've got a tough matchup coming up against a Houston squad at the Toyota Center this weekend. Speaking of this weekend, Alabama and LSU, why not go into a sports bar? They're in Birmingham, near Railroad Park. Rambler Sports Bar and Grill. It's a wonderful place to belly up or to sit at a table and enjoy all the football action all day on Saturday. The doors open at 11 a.m., but they are going to have front and center Alabama and LSU. And for the big games, they realize that you want to go in there if you're a hardcore college football fan or you're a big Alabama fan and you want to be able to hear the game. Optimum sound, the projector screens, the video screens, you're not going to find anything like it in Birmingham. It's Rambler Sports Bar and Grill, 1630 2nd Avenue South. That's 1630 2nd Avenue South. Rambler Sports Bar and Grill there at the Finnick. Wonderful food, wonderful environment for watching football all weekend long.
Joining us on the Buyers Ride Hotline from Tider Insider, Rodney Orr joins us on Three Man Front. So, Rodney, for the 32nd time, Alabama and LSU is going to meet by both teams being ranked in the AP. There have been some just incredible matchups between these two teams, really in the 2000s, but over the last 13 or 14 years, they've been really hard-fought games. The Tide have won more than they lost, but, man, it's always tough when you go down there, especially thinking about losing with Bryce Young as your quarterback just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of history. Obviously, Alabama had a lot of success. What was it, from 1969 to 2000? Every trip to Baton Rouge, Alabama either won or they had the one tie in 1985. And then Nick Saban in his first year, of course, in 2000, pulled out a really exciting game, even though Alabama wasn't very good that year. Been a lot of great games down there. I mean, what an atmosphere it is. And that's going to be the real challenge, I think, for Alabama is how do you handle that atmosphere? How do you handle the environment? Because we've seen that, notably the Tennessee game, Alabama didn't handle it extremely well, especially early. So I think that's one of the big, keys to this, to Alabama having success.
Where does Alabama need to build based on the last game that they had versus Missouri? But what would you like to see more of, Rodney, that they had success with against the Tigers?
I think running the football. I think that's what we saw, especially in the second half. I thought it began to pay some dividends there, leaning on Justice Haynes and Jam Miller a little bit more, taking some things off of Milroe. You noted really early in that game, the throws, they gave Milroe some real simple, easy throws to make, to build confidence, to get him into a rhythm. And I think that's really key with him because I think if he gets off on a positive note, he gains some confidence, he's really good. So I think that's the real positive that you want to try to build on right there. And again, get back on that running game, because I think if they can do that, if they can lean on that running game, develop that kind of mindset and some physicality, they can kind of maybe bleed some clock a little bit, shorten the game, and keep the ball out of Nussmeier's hands a little bit.
In regards to the off week, and you look at the availability report, Sab and, of course, Cole Adams, that we knew that Cole Adams is going to be out for the rest of the year. For the most part, this football team looks to be as healthy as you can be going into the month of November. What have you heard in regards to the workouts of the last week or so? How is this team feeling as they got to run the table the rest of the way to get in the CFP?
Go back to that bye week before Georgia. That went really well. They were well prepared coming into that game. I know the second half kind of turned a little bit, but they came out really well prepared, and it sounds like that this last week went very well in terms of the preparation. I know that Kalen DeBoer said that Sunday their practice was really intense, good. Practice got started on the right foot, a lot of intensity, and so that was a positive. And it sounds like they've had a really good week, leading up to this. So it sounds like at least heading down there based on what you hear, they feel really confident about the preparation that they've had.
When you look at Garrett Nussmeier and the wide receiver core that he has, Kyron Lacy, Aaron Anderson, their top two receivers, can't forget about their tight end and Mason Taylor. But when you look at the skill players on the outside for this LSU team, where do you think they rank as far as the previous opponents? I'll put the likes of Tennessee and Georgia and those skill players that Alabama has faced.
Oh, that's a good question. They play. I thought Burden and Weiss were pretty good too.
Yeah.
They just didn't have the quarterback. I mean, Brady Cook was a little banged up, and Pine just isn't ready at this level. But I think these guys are really. You look at Anderson; he's extremely explosive. He's a big play guy, former Alabama player. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands, so he's scary. And again, you mentioned their leading receiver, over 40 receptions, Kyron Lacy. He's a big guy, 215 pounds. He's physical. A lot of plays for them. There's going to be seen receivers. Now, we didn't see it in the Missouri game, but we saw it in just about every one of those other games where guys have been running free for touchdowns behind the secondary. Georgia connected on some of them. Tennessee missed on a lot of them. And you know what? I think Nussmeier guy that he's going to hit those plays on you. So those guys are certainly concerns. And you mentioned Mason Taylor. He's a guy that I'm really leery of. I mean, he's a very talented 6'5", 255-pound tight end that's athletic, catches a lot of balls. He's right behind Lacy in terms of their leading receivers. So he's a guy that Alabama's going to have to deal with. Now, the one thing is that LSU's not a great running team. They average 332 passing, 115 rushing. So that's going to be real interesting. Can Alabama, keep them one-dimensional? And I think that's going to be a real key in the game.
Talking to Rodney Orr from Tider Insider, joins us every Thursday here on Three Man Front as we preview LSU and Alabama. Okay, so let me ask you about Garrett Nussmeier. We knew his father really well. He was the offensive coordinator at Alabama. His son is the heir apparent for that offense, and if it hadn't been for Carson Beck the last couple games, Nussmeier would lead the SEC in interceptions. That's the thing that worries LSU the most coming into this game. Alabama's secondary is second in the SEC. They have 11 interceptions. They've done a really good job taking the ball away. Your thoughts on the maturation of this secondary and how all of a sudden it appears that could be one of the strengths of this Alabama defense, as we had questions about that before the season.
Yeah, I think that's a real key. And I mentioned earlier about the receivers running free, and I probably should have looked at the positive side of it and seen the takeaways like you're talking about, the interceptions. And Nussmeier had a really bad second half against Texas A&M. They got pressure on him. He made some bad throws. I think when he rushed some throws, took some chances. He's a risk taker. He makes some big plays. He had 3 interceptions in the second half of that game. So you're right. I mean, that would be really key. Make him one-dimensional and get some pressure on Nussmeier and hopefully turn the ball over. That's something that you would understand why LSU's concerned, because he has had a penchant for turning the ball over.
Rodney Orr, Tider Insider, joining us here on Three Man Front. All of our guests join us on the Buyers Right hotline. If we're going to play the other side and just play devil's advocate, what do you think LSU needs to do in order to come out with a win on Saturday?
Well, I think, first of all, defensively, they want to stop Alabama's run. They want to try to make Milroe put Alabama in positions where Milroe has to throw the ball. Third downs, third and long. That's really what they want to do. And then obviously offensively, as explosive as they are, throwing the ball, I do think that this is a game where they want to really try to get that running game going a little bit. So I think those are probably a couple of the things that they want to do. And then on the flip side for Alabama is, to me, when we've talked about this many, many times on this segment, is, can they avoid the mistakes, the penalties, the turnovers, the little things that they've done that's really kind of shot themselves in the foot. They pretty much did a good job of that against Missouri, and you saw the result. But we've seen a lot of other games this year where they just couldn't get out of their own way. And so that's going to be a real key down there in that environment. is just not. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself.
Rodney, in regards to this team, what they have to do moving forward, this is an elimination game for Alabama and LSU. The likelihood of either one being in the conversation moving forward, it's just not going to be there. Matter of fact, LSU was not even ranked in the top 12. Alabama was ranked number 11. In the likelihood that Alabama loses Saturday night and they're out of that conversation for a college football playoff berth is something that we have not, even with the 14 playoff, we're not accustomed to. What kind of criticism, if any, will Kalen DeBoer suffer from the fans out there by them not going to a CFP this year?
Yeah, well, it'll be there. I mean, it would be, yeah. I mean, it certainly would not be. It wouldn't be a good week next week. Just the response of that, and because the expectations. I mean, and again, we'll see how it all plays out and all of that, but. Yeah, it would not be pretty, I'm afraid, if that were to happen. But again, I think right now they're well prepared, kind of heading into this game. Sounds like their preparation has gone really well, and the good thing is they're number 11, and they are in a position to kind of determine their own destiny. If they win out, they're in good position. They're going to make the playoffs, and I think right now. Alabama fans are saying, hey, if we can finish 10-2 and get into the playoffs, it's a really good season. It's a great season. Now you want to, win some games of playoff. And you certainly would love to win the national championship, but I think where they are right now is, let's just get to 10-2 and let's get to the playoffs, and then we'll feel really good about the direction we're headed.
No, you've already given your prediction there on your site, but if you would just share with our listeners that prediction and also how you think the game will play out.
Yeah, I went Alabama 27-24 in my prediction. And, I just think that it's going to, there's some people, too, that think that, this game, if Alabama plays a clean game, they're the more balanced team offensively. And that, they could score some points and the differential could be greater. But no, I picked it a kind of a conservative pick, 27-24.
27-24. Rodney Orr at Tider Insider. Rodney, it should be an interesting and entertaining game. Always is down in Baton Rouge. And we look forward to catching up with you next Thursday as we talk about that and what's next for Alabama.
Well, just a real quick question. What did you guys? Have you guys picked it?
Landrum predicted Alabama 42-7.
I did not
against LSU.
We've got our better to forget it coming up at
I got you.
1:00. Now I've seen Rodney. I don't know if you've seen the forecast. I know they're calling for rain earlier in the day, but I think they've scaled back the amount of rain at night. So that I don't know who that bodes better for. I know that throwing a football, quarterbacks will tell you they can throw a wet football, but they hate the wind. So
I'm in your line of thinking, Rodney. I like Alabama 28-24.
Okay. There you go.
I will say I like Alabama. I think the only recipe for LSU winning is Garrett Nussmeier has to have a career type night.
Yeah, no turnovers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Okay.
So we're heading over to Tunica as soon as the show ends. Hey, Rodney, enjoy the weekend, and hopefully the message boards won't be too crazy.
I'm hoping.
Thanks, Rodney. Have a good weekend.
Take care.
Thanks. As Rodney Orr joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline for all your insurance, financial, and HR needs. It's Buyers Right Insurance, a Higginbotham partner.
Some of the takeaways, what's Vegas saying? What are you saying on the Jocks text line, 205-834-9450? The Thursday edition of Three Man Front rolls on here on America's home for college football and more. Jocks 94.5.
What are we listening to?
They play this. LSU wins by 3 touchdowns.
What is this?
This is Neck. This is their
song.
You know how Dixieland Delight got banned for a while because of some extra...
No, I know the song Neck.
Yeah, this is that. But similar to Dixieland Delight, the fan base has decided to change some of the lyrics, and so there's some controversy to it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
I'm just trying to play into make all the LSU fans happy. This,
Okay.
reverse psychology,
That's what it is.
if you will.
It is Black Friday all month long at Courtesy GMC. Save up to $9,000 off MSRP on 2024 Yukons and Yukon XLs. These are starting to sell out, but Courtesy, they get these new shipments in constantly. They've got AT4s, Denali's in stock, ready to go right now. That is $9,000 off MSRP on the 2024 Yukons and Yukon XLs. How about saving up to $15,000 off MSRP on the remaining 2024 GMC Sierras in stock? These trucks are very desirable, elevation premium with the X31 four-wheel drive off-road package. Go by and see them right off of I-459 exit 32 on Edwards Lake Road right next to Lowe's, or visit them online at courtesybirmingham.com.
A current money line right now, Alabama LSU. Alabama 3-point favorite. The spread on the game. The money line, Alabama minus 148. The game total is currently at 58 points. But I'm seeing nationally where there's a good amount of people that are betting on Alabama. Syndicates. I know we got Danny Kanell coming up at noon, and he's going to give us his thoughts on the game, but I have not seen a whole lot of LSU love.
Yeah, and I guess it's partially because, the last time we saw these teams, right, you saw LSU collapse in the second half against Texas A&M, and now we saw Alabama shut out Missouri. So I think maybe that's where some of that's coming from.
I would agree.
But they played a lot of games before that as well. So
they have, I think, LSU and what was expected of this team coming into the season. We saw USC, and then we saw LSU get gradually better. A big win over Ole Miss in Tiger Stadium. But now I feel like now they're on that. That would be the ebb, I guess, if we're going ebb and flow.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, okay, maybe LSU is exactly who we thought they were. And that being a 9-3, 8-4 football team.
Yeah.
All right, so you've got it pulled up. What did you say the current spread is?
-3.
-3. Okay. So last year it was -3. As we mentioned, Alabama won the game and covered.
Yep, 2 touchdowns.
And I'm just looking back since 2007. Bama was a 3-point favorite in 2008, and they won and covered. So those have been the closest point spreads, and LSU has not been a favorite in any of those games since 2007. No, I take that back. Sorry, my mistake. 2007, LSU was a 6.5-point favorite.
And that was the last time they were favored against Alabama?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
That is correct. 2007, LSU won the game and covered in 2007.
So y'all agree with the line right now? You don't think it should be like you think Alabama's slight favorite on the road makes sense?
I would love to get Alabama -1 as opposed to -3.
I agree with that. But it's not a case where you think it should be LSU -3, for example.
No,
They
I do
haven't
not.
Completely.
And the reason why is because
flip-flopped.
the last time you saw these two teams play, you had one team that shut out. Granted, it was a team that basically
They're wounded.
it was a mash unit, and the quarterback was awful.
Mm-hmm.
But Alabama did get a shutout. And what is the last thing you think about when you think LSU?
Getting blown out by A&M in the second half.
Yeah, you were up 17-7 on the road, and your quarterback absolutely hands the ball away to the other team, and you can't stop a running quarterback. So those are two areas that play really well for Alabama right now, being number 2 in the SEC in interceptions and takeaways. And you've got a quarterback that I think everybody would agree, pound by pound, is the most talented quarterback in the SEC.
So I'll say again, last year, 150 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns for Jalen Milroe. So I don't know if we're going to get that on Saturday, but I think that will be a big part of the game plan. I think the bye week and him getting healthy is going to allow them to do that more, because I think that was part of why maybe they got away from that.
And you can't say that enough, because you go back to the original bye week that Alabama had leading into Georgia, and you saw the way Alabama played.
Fair.
And they were able to get a couple of guys. Remember, the offensive line was still a little banged up, because it wasn't until the Wisconsin game that Alabama had the full complement of that offensive line playing together.
So I say Proctor missed the first few games, yeah.
And so then you had a couple other guys a little banged up a little bit. They got the off week. They came into the Georgia game. Looked like the best team in America. So they were able to take this off week leading to LSU, get healthy, some of the bumps and bruises, and prepare for a team that obviously extremely talented throwing the football, a lot of playmakers on the outside.
205-834-9450 on the Jocks text line. And a lot of you weighing in today. Steve from Tuscaloosa says the pressure will be on both Alabama and LSU to perform well in the presence of Livy Dunn. Okay. Charlie in Cincinnati said he's surprised Lane doesn't put all 85 on the availability report. Wouldn't put it past him.
No.
Guess you never know.
Could see them doing that.
This one rolling in. Sean says Bama big, 41-17 if turnovers and penalties are low, and they win 27-24 otherwise. Patrick in Alabaster says Landry and Pat said the only way they see LSU winning is if Nussmeier has a career-type night. How many teams, quarterbacks, or players have had their first touchdown or career games versus an Alabama team over the past 16 years? Just look at every Bama loss over that span. That is true. Very good point. Patrick and Alabaster, thank you. Mike in Huntsville says he loves him some Livy Dunn. Big into the Nastics. Good for you. Brad Chandler says, hey, Conrad, great bumper music coming back and into the next segments.
Thank you. I try.
This one from Georgia. Take over in the MAC tonight. So who do you want or like on the Bengals and Ravens, or the over also?
Ooh, probably leaning the Ravens in that one. Did y'all see, sidebar, did y'all see the new helmets that they're going to be wearing tonight?
With the red eyes?
Whew. Those are very good looking helmets. Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Do you have any picks for tonight at all?
I like Baltimore.
Okay.
And the 6. It is currently 6, right? If it gets any north of that.
I was about to say under a touchdown, I like the Ravens. Yeah.
I'm leaning Ravens as well.
Okay.
Drake texts in and says, guys, just gotten talking to my brother out of Florida. Get ready for a big recruiting announcement today with this Billy Napier news, and it came at a good time. In case you missed it earlier, Billy Napier is safe at least for another season there in Gainesville.
Yes, that is the big story today. Scott Strickland sent out a long dissertation about Billy Napier, that he will continue as head coach of the Florida Gators. He is confident that Billy will meet the challenges and opportunities ahead. Napier's buyout was going to be $26 million, which would have been the second largest in the history of college football behind Jimbo Fisher.
This one on Northern Hospitality. Did a job in Fenway Park about a year ago. Had to use all union labor. I was prepared to get in a few fights. Expected to have a riot on our hands when they came into contact with folks from Alabama, but they couldn't have been more friendly. The blue-collar people up north are pretty similar to those in the South. It's the ones down the street at Boston University who won't give you the time of day. Brandon says Florida fans better be careful what they wish for. They should all know what resets constantly do. If they forgot, look at Auburn. Doesn't always work out.
No, you got some nice young pieces there that committed to Napier. You probably want to keep them in the swamp, I would think.
205-834-9450. Keep the text rolling in on the Jocks text line.
Also, a little bit of news coming from Rocky Top today. Bob Kessling, longtime voice of the Vols, 26 years he has been the top voice. He replaced John Ward, legendary play-by-play guy for the Tennessee Vols. He has announced that after this basketball season, he is stepping down. He has spent 5 decades working with the Vol Network as the cornerstone of Tennessee athletics on radio and television. I have known Bob for a very long time since I got into the industry. Bob is one of the first class individuals that you will ever come in contact with. He is an outstanding individual. He's an incredible broadcaster. And so have nothing but just accolades for Bob as he calls it a career. Bob Kessling retiring at the end of the basketball season of 26 years.
Well said. You're right. Not only a professional and really good at his craft, but also a good human being.
So a lot of times on this program, we talk about where is all the sharp money going. Well, now that the election is over with, I have a list of all the famous owners and players that gave money to either Trump or to Harris. Some of the numbers may surprise you in who they gave money to and for. We'll get into that next on Three Man Front.
$11:32, three-man front. We have Fun Belt and American Athletic Conference football tonight. App State at Coastal Carolina, 7 o'clock on ESPN. FAU at East Carolina, 7 o'clock on ESPN2. And the NFL on Jocks coming up tonight. The Ravens, a 6-point favorite as they play at home. And Conrad said they are wearing the helmets with the red eyes. So be on the lookout for that.
Very clean look. Hey, look good, play good, right?
That's exactly right.
And
That's
the
what
Bill
I've
Clark
always
show
been
at
told.
6 o'clock tonight.
6 o'clock. Yep. 6 o'clock tonight. And wherever you can view it on the platform, YouTube, and find it on
You look
Jocks
great,
TV.
by the way, when we recorded it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Really?
Your hair looked good.
Okay, good.
Shirt was pressed.
He got all dressed up that
They
day.
got all
I got my hair
gussied up.
did the other day.
Gussied up.
Got a fresh cut. Yeah, for daily exercisers, youth athletes to elite professionals, UAB Sports and Exercise Medicine treats everyone with the same level of exceptional care. With board-certified professionals, state-of-the-art imaging and injury prevention programs, their comprehensive team is here to keep you in the game. Visit uabmedicine.org/sports or call 205-930-8339 to make an appointment. UAB Sports and Exercise Medicine knowledge, moving medicine forward.
Okay, so now that the presidential election is over with, I came across a list of owners for the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball. And if they gave any money, all this stuff is public record. You can't not give money to PACs or to a particular candidate or anything like that. So with that being said, just thought I'd share some of these with you, get your thoughts, whether you think it's, wow, didn't realize that, or figure this person would go for another candidate. The Dallas Mavericks, now they were sold. Now Cuban is he's a minority owner now.
It's just funny that's the one we started with.
But Miriam Adelson, she gave $100 million to Trump. $100 million.
Whew.
Houston Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta, $420,000 to Trump. Indiana Pacer and Fever owner Herb Simon gave $100,000 to Harris and $1.1 million to every state's Democratic Party.
Okay. That's a creative way to do it, I guess.
Mhm.
Okay.
Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx owner Glenn Taylor gave all of their money, did not give a number, but to Republican PACs. Sixers owner David Blitzer gave $380,000 to Republican PACs. Miami Heat owner Mickey Arison gave $100,000 to both parties.
Oh, looky there.
So that was smart, you know.
It's just crazy that we started off with $100 million donation and now we're, 100,000 here, 100,000 there.
Orlando Magic owner Dan DeVos, his family donated more than $12 million to Republican causes. Washington Wizards Mystics Capitals owner Ted Leonis gave to both Harris and Republican Senate campaigns. So he kind of spread his love out. Knicks owner James Dolan, he gave no money during this cycle, but he had to personally sign off on Madison Square Garden because he owns the property. And he had to sign off on Trump using Madison Square Garden for his rally that became infamous days up until Election Day. The Atlanta Dream owner gave money to Democratic Senate candidates in the state of Georgia. Chicago Sky owner Michael Alter gave to the Harris Victory campaign.
You get a refund?
I don't know. All right, let's talk the NFL owners. Broncos owner Rob Walton gave $20.5 million to Republicans in this cycle.
Okay.
Buccaneers Glazer family, they gave money to both sides. Jets owner Woody Johnson gave over $1 million to the Republicans. And keep in mind, his brother was an ambassador to England when Trump was president the first time.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yes. So they have a deep relationship with Trump. Browns owner Jimmy Haslam, former owner of Pilot gas stations, big Tennessee guy, gave all of his money to Republicans. Steeler owner Art Rooney gave to the Harris Victory Fund. So the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers was a Harris person. Vikings owner Segu Wilf gave to Biden and Harris campaigns. Cardinals owner Mike Bidwell, that is the football Cardinals,
Yeah.
gave to Republicans. Titans owner Amy Adams Strunk gave to Trump. Robert Kraft of the Patriots, Donald Trump. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones did not give any money to a presidential candidate, but did give money to Senator Ted Cruz.
That's kind of funny.
Chargers owner Dean Spanos gave to Republicans. Falcons owner Art Blank gave to a nonpartisan election reform group. So did not give to
Okay.
Harris or Trump.
So is it just an independent group, I guess? Okay.
Dolphins owner Stephen Ross covered his bases,
Oh, yeah.
gave to both parties.
Got two down there.
Bears owner the McCaskies, they gave to both parties.
Okay.
Major League Baseball,
Did you say Arthur Blank?
Yeah, he was the one that donated to the
Nonpartisan.
independents. Yeah.
Okay.
the Ricketts family that owns the Cubs gave to the Republicans. Reds owner Bob Castellini gave to the Republicans.
Alrighty.
Giants owner Charles Johnson gave more than $2 million to the Republicans. Twins owner Jim Polad, who is now selling the Twins, they gave $375,000 to the Harris Victory Fund. Rangers owner Ray Davis gave $415,000 to Donald Trump. A's owner John Fisher gave to both sides. Mets owner Steve Cohen, $150,000 to the Democrats. The Diamondbacks owners gave to Republicans. And the final one that I have on my list is Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner of the Chicago White Sox. He gave a very small amount to the Republicans. So if you're an owner of a franchise, of a major franchise in North America, the majority gave their money to Republicans.
Well, I'm glad that Hal's saving his money for Soto.
Yeah, so Steve Cohen only gave $150,000.
Well, he's paying for a lot of other things.
I was surprised. I saw where Johnson, the owner of the San Francisco Giants,
Mhm.
he gave to the Republicans. Most of his money went to the Republicans. But I'm also going back and I'm looking at Arthur Blank, not necessarily to Kamala Harris, but he gave $7,121 to a lot of different Democratic candidates in a multitude of states.
It's a very specific number.
$7,121.
Yeah. Okay.
Across the board.
And the majority of his money did go to that independent kind of a voter coalition, probably get out the vote, election integrity, those type things. But the majority of the owners, as you just heard me read out, depending on what state they were in, no big surprise that one of the few states that went blue, Minnesota, the owners of both the Twins and the basketball team gave to the Democrats. And the Chicago Sky owner gave to the Harris Victory Campaign. And most of the states that went red, the owners of those franchise ended up giving money to Donald Trump or Republicans, including the $100 million by the Dallas Mavericks owner to the Trump PAC.
$100 million, that's significant.
But if you follow the money, she was also, if I'm not mistaken, she was the education secretary under Donald Trump. It doesn't take long to kind of
There's just a lot of humor in that.
Put the dots together.
Yes. A lot of humor in that one.
Yep. So Election Day is over.
Thank God.
I think many of us are very happy about that.
Yeah, my phone's really happy about it.
I signed you up for a few more because we'll have election time in 2 years.
Okay.
So we'll get you loaded back up.
I'll sign you up for something too. Not necessarily political. Wait till
You can buy a subscription to your own website?
Wait till Leanne sees those texts.
Wow. That should be fun. More three-man front on this Thursday. Next hour, Danny Kanell and Brett Norsworthy. A very busy 12 o'clock hour. This is Jocks 94.5. 11:47, Jocks 94.5 on this Thursday. Next hour, Danny Kanell, one of the most anticipated guests we have on this radio show. Will he throw knives at Alabama? He's been really nice the last couple times about Alabama. I don't know why everybody hates him. Landrum bugs me all the time. Hey, text Danny. Get Danny on. We need Danny on.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like
Danny's,
having Danny on the
so
show.
Danny's going to be on. today.
Danny's great,
He's a
man.
good guest.
Yeah.
So Danny Kanell, former Florida State quarterback. Also, you can watch him on CBS Sports Network and CBS Sports HQ. He's one of their college football analysts, along with Damian Harris.
That's right.
Damian's been very outspoken.
He has not
Has
held
he
back
calmed
about
down?
Alabama.
Has he calmed down any?
Yeah, he's been better.
Has
I
he?
mean, if he wants to be critical, he's more than welcome to be. It's just he was very critical at times earlier in the year. But yeah. But, if they play bad on Saturday,
They might
he'll
be
be
back.
right back to,
It might be back.
ripping them apart.
I mean, I know a lot of people don't want to even consider the likelihood, but we could be sitting here on Monday with not one single team in the state of Alabama in the conversation for the college football playoff
Mhm.
in the first ever expanded. That's like really hard to think about.
Yeah, and I mean that, especially when you look at Alabama and a few years ago when I guess you heard, we'll move to 12 teams eventually. You're like, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, they're never going to miss a 12-team playoff. Well, don't lose on Saturday.
Would that not be something if Alabama were to lose to LSU, Georgia loses at Ole Miss,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden Georgia all of a sudden becomes in play as a team that may be on the outside?
Or if you're an Alabama fan and realizing since we went to a 12-team expanded playoff, the likes of Ole Miss, if that happens,
Mhm.
and Tennessee are in a college football playoff and you're not.
And don't sleep on
Texas
Texas
A&M.
A&M. Yeah.
That might be the
Yep.
worst one or the hardest pill to swallow.
Or if you told Conrad before the season, hey, you're going to beat Georgia. You're going to beat Georgia in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but by the way, you're not going to make the college football playoff.
And you're going to lose to Vanderbilt. Wouldn't have believed it.
Text line is open, 205-834-9450, brought to you by Courtesy GMC.
Yep. Steve says, will you please post the Pat Sports Owners donation list on Twitter or X?
We'll see if we can't make that happen.
Gavin says, hey, Landry, I really hope my Athens Golden Eagles beat up on your Patriots tomorrow night. History is not on our side in the series, but I hope things change tomorrow night. I'd like to hear Pat's prediction on that game. Have a great day. Love you guys. Yeah, you want to give a prediction on Homewood and Athens, Pat? Because I do games for Spain Park. I hope Homewood wins, but I have no idea.
I wish I could assist in giving you a thought on the game. I have not seen one play for either school this year, so I apologize. I cannot give an opinion on that.
And that's why we have Kyle Parbley on every Friday at 1 p.m.
Right.
Yep.
Hey, does Homewood still have Pat the Patriot on the side of their helmet, or do they went the Flying Elvis? What do they have
Well,
now?
I think it's Pat the Patriot.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Great look.
At
That's
least the one that I
fantastic.
see in my local Piggly Wiggly.
It's the Pat's
Pat the
Patriot.
Patriot. Yep.
Awesome.
BB here. My last stint in the corporate world was with a New York City-based media company. Nothing sucks more than the trains and the subway. People found to be mostly rude, and thank God when I stepped back on Bama soil after a business trip. No Northeast for me. Thank you, BB. We appreciate it. Bob Kessling stepping down after this Tennessee basketball season.
That is correct. Yes, 26 years as the voice of the Vols.
And it was announced last night. Brad Chandler, thank you for the reminder that Coach Sonny Smith stepping down as well. So Sonny Smith not going to be on the Auburn broadcast. And he was having to miss some time anyways with travel and health concerns. BHAM Dog says Steve Cohen is used to giving money to losing causes.
Well, yeah, better this year.
Chris from Rogersville says, I believe LSU defense steps up and produces turnovers. Go Tigers.
Well, Jalen Milroe did have a problem with that. For a
Yes,
stretch.
he did.
Can't be having that on Saturday.
Keep the text coming in on the text line, 205-834-9450.
You know, it was 2004, 2006. That was the last time that Alabama lost back-to-back games in Tiger Stadium. It's a place that has not been a problem for them to play.
No.
Even before Saban got there. I mean, from 1969, Alabama just had an incredible record in Tiger Stadium. And then in 2004, LSU won. 2006, they won. So if they win this Saturday, it'll be the first time since 2006 that they won back-to-back games.
Just hopefully it's not as heartbreaking fashion as 2 years ago if they were to win again.
This will be the ninth
rough.
time that these two teams have met on the date of November 9th.
Well, we know that's going to play into your pick on Bet It or Forget. You love
historical
dates for matchups.
This long series, 9 times. You want to take a guess? Who owns the advantage?
On November 9th?
The first one was 1946.
Something tells me that LSU is going to have the advantage in this one.
I will give you a hint. 1985, it ended in a tie, 14-14.
Oh, are we looking at a 4-4-1 split here?
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not. Better to forget it. We do it at 1 o'clock.
So there's a lot on the line on Saturday, not just college football playoff hopes, but the November 9th tiebreaker.
Yes.
Do they have a trophy for that?
We can create one.
Okay.
We'll put you in charge of that.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was telling someone this morning about the crazy stat because someone asked me, "Hey, so you like Ole Miss this week? You like Ole Miss?" And I said, "Well, my gut would say no, my heart would say maybe, my mind is saying no." So 2 of the 3 is saying no, but just to think that in this rivalry with Georgia dominating the way they have, when these two teams, not that they've played every year, just because they were in opposite divisions in the SEC for a long time. But Georgia's won 11 of the last 12, and they've won 33 of the 47 times that they've played. They haven't played a lot, but Georgia has dominated, including last year's game where they had over 600 yards of offense.
Maybe it changes, but history is not on the side if you're pulling for Ole Miss and laying in big games.
No, he's got to show you something, I think, before you can have.
And to be fair,
faith.
Ole Miss in a big game with as much on the line potentially is on the line on Saturday, and that's going and getting into a college football playoff. Because I do believe they're squarely back in it if they beat Georgia.
Yes.
Because
No
what have we
doubt.
been? Alabama, the only reason they're still there, they have the best win in college football.
And if you're Ole Miss, that win helps you, and it
Hurts
Alabama in terms of if we're jockeying for position at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama needs Georgia to win.
Yes. Granted, the Kentucky loss is going to hurt Ole Miss, but yes, if you're an Alabama fan, you probably just want Georgia to run.
If you're an Alabama fan, you root for Vandy every week now, and you root for Georgia.
Yep. And South Carolina continuing to win does not hurt either.
But I would think Vandy needs to beat South Carolina, not South Carolina to beat Vandy to help Alabama more.
I would agree with
Because
that.
you have got to somehow dilute that loss to Vanderbilt.
What you really want to happen is for Georgia to beat Tennessee and then Vanderbilt to beat Tennessee. But that's very much.
That's perfect.
But
But if you're already rooting for Georgia
wishful thinking
to win every game, Georgia's going to beat Tennessee.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a Rubik's Cube.
I was about to say
Just flipping it around.
it's 12-team playoffs fun.
Yeah. Coming up next hour, we will talk to Danny Kanell and also Brett Norsworthy from WHBQ Radio in Memphis. Also a voice on the Ole Miss Radio Network. We'll get his thoughts. Can the Ole Miss Rebels just turn history away and get a big win against the Georgia Bulldogs to keep their season alive? That will be one of the things that we talked to Brett about in the rest of the Southeastern Conference. He has seen LSU up close and personal, so maybe he'll have a play. Or how about his I ain't scared last week? He hit that one big time.
You said what, Vandy double digits?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. 2 touchdowns.
Actually, he said 2 touchdowns, but it was double digits. It was 10 points.
Double digits. Going back to Georgia and Ole Miss, look at the games where they've struggled, besides Alabama, and they were able to come back in the second half. But Mississippi State game, you're like, what's going on? That game in Athens. Last week versus Florida, nobody was giving the Gators a chance. Give me a couple of other instances. Kentucky, when they took on the Wildcats in Lexington. But when it's been a big game and the game has been circled and people are doubting Georgia, which they could be on Saturday, look what happened in Austin, Texas. Something tells me the dog's going to be ready for the Rebels. Danny Kanell, Brett Norsworthy in the next hour. We continue three-man front and jocks.
It is 12 noon here on Jocks. Pat Smith, Landrum Roberts, Molly Robinson, Conrad Van Order. Take you up until 2 o'clock where the Paul Feinbaum Show will come on these airwaves. Coming up this hour, very busy hour. Danny Kanell will join us in about 15 minutes. Brett Norsworthy at 12:30. In the 1 o'clock hour, we'll do Bet It or Forget It. Also some Pat Ponders. The big story today in college football was very early. A matter of fact, about 2 hours ago right now, Florida AD Scott Strickland announced that Billy Napier will continue as head coach of the Florida Gators. He says he's confident Billy will meet the challenges and opportunities ahead. Napier's buyout would have been more than $26 million, which would have been the second largest ever in the history of college football, only behind Jimbo Fisher that Texas A&M paid off last year. So Scott Strickland having the belief and thought that Billy Napier can get this thing turned around. This football team has definitely had the tough task of trying to overcome a lot of injuries, including now their star quarterback Lagway, questionable whether he's going to be able to play this weekend against Texas. Texas currently about a 21.5-point favorite. Let's go back to September, where Scott Strickland, the athletics director of the University of Florida, gave this interview with Paul Feinbaum and said the following on a Friday afternoon. It shocked a lot of people, but this was kind of the harbinger of things to come.
Billy is a man of substance. He's a leader of substance. He is very methodical, which probably, long term is going to be really good for Florida and for our football program, because he's going to he's not going to cut a corner. He's not going to take a shortcut. He's going to be a really, really solid foundation. And he's going to get this thing going to be at the level that all Gators want it to be at, which is competing for championships, playing in meaningful postseason games. And once he gets it to that point, it's going to stay at that point. And so I see the steps he's taken, the caliber of young people he's brought in. He's improved the roster. He's improved the overall structure of the team. And I think we have been patient as a university. That patience is going to be rewarded. I really believe Billy Napier is going to be head coach at Florida for a long, long time.
I firmly believe that moving forward, you're talking about patience. The patience will be extremely thin if he does not turn this around next year. I think the patience will be thin for not only Billy Napier, but for Scott Strickland.
I think that this is a 1-year buffer.
Yes.
I do not think this is a new commitment of a 3, 4, 5-year plan for Billy Napier. I think you got one more shot, buddy.
Well, if you want to take the example of Mario Cristobal, and he was potentially going to be on a warmer seat. He was on a warmer seat, let's be honest, entering this season. But you look at one quarterback and what Cam Ward has been able to do for that football team. Because taking over at Miami and going 5-7 and 7-6, and the way they lost some of those games, but now currently being 9-0, a favorite to get a first-round bye in the college football playoff. How many other schools are going to try to use that as an example where you get one dynamic player, think about what it can do, especially a guy like Cam Ward? And not to compare, but a guy like Cam Newton did the same thing for Auburn in 2010. Think of what Dak Prescott did for Mississippi State.
It's just a question of how many of those guys are you gonna have one of those guys every year, I guess.
You're not.
Question. Yeah.
But you're betting that maybe that guy's going to be out there and that's going to be available. And how much does a Cam Ward, how much does that price tag go up? Do we continue to see inflation when it comes to college football quarterbacks on the open market?
I mean, I saw this morning where there's a report coming out of South Carolina that Dylan Stewart, their freshman defensive lineman, is looking at a $1 million to $1.5 million NIL deal to come back to South Carolina next year.
Well, we know
that is a defensive line. He's great.
And Pete Nakos, I believe, told us that defensive linemen, those are the guys that are getting paid.
Yes.
Even if you're a middle-of-the-road defensive lineman, it starts at around $500,000.
And listen, of all the teams that Alabama's played this year, to me, South Carolina, that defensive front.
Oh, they're fantastic.
I mean, they got after, and you can ask Texas A&M how good they are. Based on what you saw.
Him and Kennard together.
Yeah, no, they were tough. Now, in regards to next year, this Florida Gators schedule, I know it's never too early to start looking at schedules for next year. Keep in mind the SEC schedule, this is kind of a 2-year stopgap because they're still trying to figure out what's going to happen in regards to a 9-game SEC schedule. So for the purposes of next year, whoever your team, whatever your favorite team is in the SEC, those home games are going to be road games. So you're playing the same opponents in the SEC as you did this year, meaning Alabama will go to South Carolina, Tennessee will come to Bryant-Denny, LSU to Bryant-Denny, Auburn will have to go, obviously, on the road to Vandy next year, and so forth. The non-conference schedule for Florida, and by the way, the SEC schedule, the dates have not been set and will not be set till later. So this crazy November that Florida has, they may get relief next year. Like, for instance, just because they're flipping the schedule doesn't mean they're going to hold the same place on the schedule for next year. That's going to be manipulated by TV. But next year, his non-conference opponents is South Florida at home. Miami is at Miami. Florida A&M at home. And then Florida State is at home. So that's their non-conference games. And then they'll play Georgia, obviously in Jacksonville. They've got Mississippi State at home, Tennessee at home, Texas at home. They got to go to Lexington, and they got to go to LSU. They got to go to Ole Miss, and they got to go to Texas A&M. So if you're looking at that, and a lot will have to be determined on if that's going to be that amen corner on the back end of their schedule, how successful he potentially can be, because we saw this as soon as the schedules came out, that the month of November, Landrum, was going to be hell for Billy Napier if he could get to November 1st. And not only did he get to November 1st, but now he's been granted at least another start of the season next year.
Isn't it crazy, though, how much it's changed for Billy Napier in a matter of weeks, but also for a guy like Sam Pittman, where prior to the start of the season, we thought that it was going to be either he was going to be gone, they were going to force him out, or Sam Pittman was just going to say, you know what, adios, I'm going to ride off into the sunset. It's been a good career. Let me just go and enjoy retired life, or maybe taking an offensive line job somewhere else. But the state of uncertainty, as you've said, that is around not only college football, but college athletics and athletic departments having to gear up and buffer, and you're already asking for more from your contributors. You're trying to find new and creative ways to find other ways to bring in money. And it's just an uncertain time. Now, the economy, if that turns, and hopefully it will, that will change some things with some of these guys. But I just, unless you're in dire straits or you just print money like Texas A&M does, I think you're going to see coaches get more longevity. And the knee jerk, unless you have a Jeff Bezos that's sitting there that's a big supporter of your program that's willing to stroke that $40 to $70 million check, you're going to see coaches that are staying longer and they're given more forgiveness. And I think parity plays into it too, Conrad.
Yeah, one thing that I'm interested with this, and I understand it's completely different here in the SEC in terms of the dollar amounts and the pressure and things like that. But, I look at a guy like Neil Brown and what his situation was going into last season, where, we all assumed, he had the highest odds to be the first coach fired in college football last year. He turns West Virginia around. He has a nice season, a lot of goodwill. Now West Virginia kind of taking a step back from where they were last year. So how are they going to move forward in that situation? I understand West Virginia is different than Florida or Arkansas, but, is that the kind of situation that Napier and Pittman find themselves in where, okay, things are good right now, but, if next year we're sitting here and you go 5-7 or 6-6, is that going to cut it again next year? And is that ultimately how things are going to play out at West Virginia with the Neil Brown and how they kind of navigate that situation this offseason?
And see, my opinion, and I know some Florida people won't like to hear this, but my opinion is if you're going to give him the opportunity next year, you can't, if he has a bad September, you can't fire him now.
You got to go through the whole year.
You've got to let him have an opportunity to just have the full 12 games before you start making. And the only caveat to that would be if they were to come out and just.
Yeah, if you get shut out the first 3 weeks in a row and
And then all of a sudden you've got guys opting out, decommitting.
Yes.
Then it's a different story. But for the most part, I think you can't just punt it away after a month or two after you've given him the opportunity.
No, that makes you look terrible. And we talked about the Billy Napier's boss's job security, and that would not be a good look in that direction.
Yeah. So that is the big story in college football is that Billy Napier, for the conference that likes to chew up their coaches and spit them out, it seems like we're becoming a little bit more benevolent as we're giving guys more opportunities to stick around and get it right.
It just means more.
Yeah, and
chances.
if you're looking to upgrade maybe your head coach or your outdoor living area and landscape, how about our friends at Second Generation Masonry? That's a team for beautifying any area. Their expert team crafts durable brick, concrete, and elegant stone creations that elevate any space, from fire pits, landscape steps, garden walls, stone patios, and walkways to custom driveways. These are your guys. Alabama-based business, over 2 decades in business, residential and commercial. Go to secondgenerationmasonry.com. Look at the completed projects and also get your free quote today. Secondgenerationmasonry.com. Make sure you tell them Landrum from Jocks 94.5 sent you.
Also, last night you had Auburn defeating Vermont. It was the first game of the season for the Auburn Tigers, 94-43. Tigers beat the Ken Palm's 80th team in the nation. That was a very lopsided victory last night. Auburn shot 56%. Miles Kelly, the Georgia Tech transfer, he scored 21 points. Denver Jones added 16. 10 Auburn players got into the scoring column last night. Vermont hit just 26% of their shots. They had hit 10 3-pointers against UAB the other night to beat the Blazers. They only hit 5 last night. So it was a stifling defense by the Auburn Tigers against Vermont. More three-man front when we come back, including CBS Sports' Danny Kanell joins us next on Three Man Front. It is 12:15, Jocks 94.5 on this Thursday. We're moments away from talking to Danny Kanell, the famed former Florida State quarterback, friend of the program. You can watch him on CBS Sports giving his take on all things college football momentarily.
Well, let me tell you about Big Whiskies because they are your place for great food of all varieties with a full menu ranging from apps, salads, burgers to steaks. Their bar features unique cocktails, over 120 whiskeys, including whiskey on tap, and plenty of screens to catch all the games all weekend long. This holiday season, let Big Whiskies do all the work as they can cater for your business or any social party of any size. Check them out in the Stadium Trace Village off Highway 150 near the Hoover Met.
Joining us now on the Buyers Ride Hotline, friend of the program, Danny Kanell, joins us here on Three Man Front. Danny, I hope you're doing well on this Thursday.
I am fantastic. Good to be with you guys. I'm glad I can be described as a friend of the program, although I am a little bit nervous how this conversation goes. That might be a tenuous relationship. But I love catching up with you guys, man. It's great to be on.
We do consider you a friend, and we are friends. And as your friends, we're concerned about our friend Danny Kanell. Florida State 1-8. How much whiskey are you consuming these days?
Yee, my goodness. So I did a sober October, and it was probably the most challenging month of my entire life. And you know what probably pushed me over the edge was the Duke game on Friday night with the national stage. You know, everybody's watching that game. And a game that I actually thought they could have won and still felt like they had it right there for the taking. And then you see more interceptions. You see big plays given up. It has been devastating. And it does, I'm able to relate to a lot of fan bases that I never could before. You know, when you talk about some of the bottom dwellers of college football, all of a sudden we're having this historically bad season, and it's embarrassing. It's demoralizing. It's humiliating. All the emotions are very real, and it's desperation. And yet, like, people have asked, how did this happen, or what do we do now? There aren't a lot of great answers to those questions. Florida State, whether they like it or not, is stuck with Mike Norvell because of a $65 million buyout, and we don't have the oil money that Texas A&M did to be able to cut a check to Jimbo Fisher. And I'm not advocating that they should if they could, but those are the type of questions that are going around Florida State. It's been that bad. And guess what? They're a 26-point underdog to Notre Dame, and then they have Charleston Southern, which you better get that win. My goodness. And then the Florida Gators come to town. You'll probably be an underdog in that one. So we are staring at a 2-10 season right smack dab in the face, and it is a rough reality to deal with.
Danny, before we start talking about some of these interesting games for this weekend, and Danny comes on this program courtesy of our friends at betonline.ag, I want to ask you about the big news this morning. In the state of Florida, Billy Napier has been given another year to try to get this right in Gainesville. Your initial thoughts on Billy Napier coming back?
So I think it's a wise move from Scott Strickland, the athletic director. And I know some people, and I've already been accused of this on social media, I said, well, you're a Florida State guy. Of course you want Billy Napier back. It means they're not going to be very good. And those types of accusations come in my way. But I think it's smart for a couple of reasons. One, I think Florida and their administration know that it's about to get bumpy again for the Florida Gators, because I think there is some hope and optimism within the program. From what you've seen from a young DJ Lagway, even though he got hurt against Georgia, you still saw a game that was, tied 20-20 in the second half against the juggernaut of the SEC and the team that has owned this rivalry in the Georgia Bulldogs. So you leave that game with a pretty good taste in your mouth, and then all of a sudden DJ Lagway gets hurt, but it looks like he could return sooner rather than later. But, and here comes the but, look at the schedule ahead. It's about to get really bumpy again, because now you've got to go on the road at Texas as a 3-touchdown underdog, come home against LSU and Ole Miss, a couple of top 15 teams, and then you have your rival in Florida State on the road. So I think what Scott Strickland is doing is trying to get out in front of this bumpy road ahead, and trying to, at least show a united front. And I think it's one reason and one reason only. Yes, it's to the fan base. Yes, it's to the boosters. But most importantly, it's to the players on that roster. And I would say maybe even most importantly to DJ Lagway, because what you see happen today's college football world, and just trust me, I see it at Florida State, once you look vulnerable, and I would say Florida looks vulnerable because of their record, because of all the discussions around Billy Napier's future, you get poached. And opposing coaches see that and say, man, let me fire off a DM or a text to their young players and say, hey, how are you doing over there? What if Billy Napier's fired? What are you going to do? So they're starting to get those type of conversations. And so Scott Strickland is saying, look, Billy Napier's our coach. He's going to be here for the future. Don't listen to what anybody says, no matter what the result is the next few weeks. So I think that's what it's for. And then the other thing that I think was wise about it, there really is, it doesn't mean anything. Like it's a sign of it's an endorsement that is just verbal. There's nothing contractual. There's no contract extension. There's no guaranteed money. It is just a show of support. And we've seen this happen many times over in college football, where that show of support can quickly be brought back and turned on. So, for example, if they lost out and had a loss at Florida State at the end of the season, I think Billy Napier would be done. Like, I don't think it matters about this letter of support or whatever it is. I don't think that happens, but I think that's just a showing of support to try to keep everybody together.
I would love, Danny, to get your thoughts, your reaction to the initial college football rankings that we got on Tuesday night. Did you have any major issue with any of the teams inside of the top 12?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Like I think there's little to no respect giving to teams that have won every single game on their schedule. And Indiana and BYU, probably the prime examples. Indiana with 9 wins, in BYU with 8 wins. And here's what I'll say: like I've always been told, and I've done the exercises where you're supposed to kind of group teams, and once you rank them, they should be in these tiers. And what I can't understand for the life of me, because if you want to make the strength of schedule argument, I get it, right? Indiana hasn't played a top 25 team, but BYU has. So how can BYU be ranked behind Indiana at number 9 when they've beaten 2 current top 25 teams? They beat SMU by 3 points. They're 13th currently, and they beat Kansas State, who's 19th currently. So like they have 2 ranked wins. Why are they behind? Or Texas, Penn State. You can make an argument Georgia, Ohio State. I get it; those teams are good and their losses aren't bad, so I don't have that big of a problem. But why aren't they in the same tier as Miami? Because Miami doesn't have a ranked win on the season, and even worse, they've had some games against subpar talent where they've needed a last-second, call to go in their favor, whether it was Cal, whether it was Virginia Tech, or even Louisville. Like they had games that were very much in doubt. So I don't understand why BYU wouldn't be up there right next to Miami in the same tier, and Indiana, because of their dominance over the schedule where they've won every game by 2 touchdowns or more. Why isn't Indiana getting the respect they deserve? I understand why. It's because they're not named Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State. If they were, there's no doubt in my mind they'd be a top 3 team right now.
So what do you think happens ultimately in the ACC, your former conference, in regards to SMU and obviously Miami, the team you're just talking about? Clemson's loss became problematic for them over the weekend. Where's this ACC going ultimately for the CFP?
So I think if you're Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, you are hoping that Miami runs the table. They go undefeated, which, again, they'll be favored every game. They only have 3 left at Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. 2 of those on the road, but even still, I think you should be able to handle that. And then for SMU, same position. Run the table, 3 games left, Boston College, Virginia, Cal. All they should be favored. And then, so here's where it gets interesting, because then I think they should be a 2-bid league. I think both those teams should be in. But what happens if Miami beats SMU and they're ranked around that 11 or 12 spot? Does that knock SMU out? Like, do you penalize SMU for getting to the ACC championship game and reward a program like Notre Dame, who would have 1 loss and would be sitting there without having played in the conference championship game? That dynamic gets really interesting. And how does that handled by the committee? But I think in the best case, like if you wanted 2 teams in from the ACC, then I think if SMU beat Miami, getting the automatic bid as the conference champion, I don't think Miami would fall far enough to go out. So then I think that's the very clear-cut path for the ACC to get 2 teams in. Clemson's done. No one else. Pitt is done. I think everybody else in the ACC is on the outside looking in. So I think at the best case, it's a 2-bid league, and at worst case, it's only the conference champion.
All right, Danny. Danny joins us, by the way, courtesy of our friends at betonline.ag. All of our guests join us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Let's dive into the big games and some of those spreads we're going to get this weekend. A team that you mentioned, BYU, maybe not getting enough love in being undefeated there in the Big 12. Big game for them as they take on Utah. BYU currently a 4-point favorite.
Yeah, this is one of those lines that it shows you not only does the committee not give BYU respect us, but the odds makers don't either. And this is a tricky spot for them. Utah is coming off a bye. They're playing at Rice-Eccles, which is a pretty rabid, place to play. It's a hostile environment. And BYU has had a couple games where they played down to the competition. And Utah, 4-4, has fallen way short of expectations since that, since Cam Rising was lost for the season. It's really derailed them. And now they're even debating making a quarterback change right before this game. What I am trying to figure out, I'm kind of just spitballing this and talking out loud, is this point spread tell you that the odds makers know something, or is this going to be similar to the point spread we saw at UCF, where BYU was actually a 3-point underdog before going in there, taking control of that game and winning by double digits? And I'm torn on this one because I think Utah's defense can keep this close. But, man, I love the story of Kalani Sitake, the coach at BYU. He's been awesome. Jake Retzlaff, the BY Jew, as he calls himself. I mean, a Jewish kid playing at a Mormon school is like just a fascinating dynamic in itself. My favorite nickname for him is Patrick Shaloms. which again, another one that he's kind of has embraced and loved it. I do worry about him. My favorite play in this game, I would lean towards Utah getting those 4 points, but my favorite play is the under. Utah's defense is really good. I don't trust their offense, so I think it'll be a lower scoring affair. So I like the under as my favorite play in that one. But this could be one where the committee dodges a bullet. They don't have to pay BYU respect, and it takes care of itself.
All right, got to ask you about Alabama heading down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The Tigers have not beaten Alabama in back-to-back years at Tiger Stadium since 2004-2006. The Tide, they have a 3-point advantage, according to Vegas, against the Bengal Tigers. Your thoughts on this game?
Okay, this is one I'm nervous talking to you guys about, and we'll just hash it out here, and we'll just talk out loud because
let's walk through it, Danny.
I'm worried about the Tide. I'm worried about the Tide, and one player I think will determine the outcome of this game, and it's Jalen Milroe. And what I'm curious to know, I wish I could feel his body. Like I wish, not in a weird way, I wish I could put myself in his body and feel the pain
Glad you
that
clarified.
he has been going through. Yes, I wanted to make sure that phrasing was correct because he is somebody who clearly was banged up. I mean, he did not look like the same player that he looked like against Georgia when he's out there and like he's looked in years past when he's out there able to run all over defenses. I thought in the South Carolina game was really where he took a couple shots and then seeing him limping around in pregame warm-ups in Tennessee. You didn't see the really explosiveness against Missouri, but you didn't need it because Missouri is one of the worst teams, most overrated teams in the country. So what version is it? Is Jalen Milroe a week off enough to get him healthy where he's that dynamic player? Or is it a bigger issue that defenses have tried to, somewhat figured him out and kept him in the pocket and figured, okay, we just can't let him beat us with his legs. He's got to beat us with his arm. And by the way, when you do take away his legs, that's when he struggles through the air. In the last 4 games, hasn't rushed over 50 yards rushing and has thrown 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So my eyeballs are all on Jalen Milroe. What version do you get? And without really knowing that answer, I look at LSU and I think Garrett Nussmeier, who's coming off a really poor performance against A&M, 3 interceptions, but I do think that A&M defensive front line, especially their D-line with Nick Scorton, is better than Alabama's. That game was on the road. I think his offensive line will protect him better against Alabama's front, not having the crowd noise to deal with. And I think Garrett Nussmeier is able to take advantage of a secondary in Alabama that even Nico, and I watched that Tennessee game, I know that Alabama lost that game, but Nico left even more points and touchdowns on the board. I think Garrett Nussmeier will be able to put up some points in that Alabama secondary. You look at LSU, they're 6-2 straight up in their last 8 games as a home underdog playing in there at Baton Rouge, 6-1-1 against the spread. Alabama's 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games versus ranked opponents. I like LSU in the number here. For your guys' sake, I would love to see an Alabama 1-point win maybe so we could all be winners. But I do think LSU with those 3 points is the right side to be on. All
right, another big game coming up in the SEC, potentially an elimination game for at least one of these teams. Georgia, another road favorite, taking on Ole Miss in Oxford. Does Lane finally get over the hump and beat an elite team?
I don't know how you trust him. At the beginning of the week, I loved Ole Miss. I was like, man, this is the time. They're playing at home. They're coming off a huge win where they threw it for 500 yards against Arkansas, and the offense puts up 63. And on the flip side, Carson Beck keeps throwing it to the wrong team. He's got 3 interceptions in 3 different games, and it cost them one of them. And it hasn't been pretty for Carson Beck. But I go back, and it feels very similar to kind of the week going into the Texas game. If you remember, Georgia had a less than stellar performance against Mississippi State. Wasn't pretty for the defense. Carson Beck, again, question marks. And what showed up? The Georgia defense. And that's what I think shows up in this one. So I like Georgia as the road favorite in this one. Don't love it because I do like Georgia. Ole Miss should scare us, right? They have the potential to put up those type of shootout numbers, but I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball. They've been banged up. They don't have their best receiver potentially on the outside, and Trey Harris, the running back, backfield has been banged up. And I know Lane's been playing coy with the injury report, listing, 8 billion players on the injury report. But I think in the end, I think Georgia's defense shows up. So I like the under in that game, and I like Georgia to win and cover in that one.
That is Danny Kanell. You can watch all of his football discussion on CBS Sports HQ, CBS Sports It's always fun, Danny, and you're brought to us each and every time you come by our friends at betonline.ag. Check them out for all the latest lines there. Now that the political season's over with, it's all about the NFL and college football and some little basketball as well. Danny, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us, and appreciate your flexibility joining us today. And we hope to talk to you very soon.
You guys are the best. Thanks for having me on as always. Appreciate you bumping it back 15 minutes. And the best part about this weekend, no more political ads. We don't have to worry about those ads through commercials. We can just get back to watching football. Love it, man. Great talking to you guys.
Hey, Danny, last quickly, if you got one more second, because
who did I vote for?
No. No, I actually, this is kind of a serious question because we had an open discussion about this. Is the relationship with Deion Sanders and Florida State, is there a rub there somewhere, or is everything good with his status with the people around Tallahassee?
There is a rub. I'm not with the fans. Fans will always love Deion Sanders, but he did want that job. And one of the things that rubbed him the wrong way is Florida State said you need to have your college degree. So he went back and got it. To his credit, he did go get his degree, but I think it rubbed him the wrong way that he couldn't take the job because he didn't have his degree. Now he's got it. And I think that was a big reason last year, if you remember, he kind of distanced himself, didn't call him a Florida State Seminole. He's like, I didn't graduate from there. I graduated from an HBCU. I think that was a very clear indicator that he's still a little bit rubbed the wrong way with it. But hopefully it's smoothed over. I mean, as a Florida State guy, he was a legend. The dude's maybe the best player that's ever played there. But there is a little bit of tension there between the Deion and the administration.
Okay, we had just a discussion. We had someone text in the show asking us that, and we said, you know what? We've got one of the biggest alums and biggest stars in Florida State football history is going to join us. So we wanted to ask you. We knew that you would know. So thank you.
Love it.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Have a
Danny.
good one, guys.
Take care. Have a good weekend. That is Danny Kanell. Joined us on the Buyers Ride Hotline for all your insurance, financial, and HR needs. It's Buyers Ride Insurance, a Higginbotham partner.
Speaking of that Georgia Ole Miss game, the guy who knows all the ins and outs of the Ole Miss football program. He's part of the radio network, the Southern Gentleman, Brett Norsworthy, talking about that game and all the big games across college football, including his Zion Scared Bowl prediction of the weekend. He's next on Three Man Front.
It is 1237, Jocks 94.5. Joining us now on the Buyers Ride Hotline from WHBQ Radio in Memphis. Also a member of that famous Ole Miss Radio Network football team. Brett Norsworthy joins us on Three-Man Front. Brett, I hope you're doing well on this Thursday. No more political ads that we will have to suffer through. It's just now football, and more football. Happy Thursday to you.
Happy Thursday, y'all. Thank you so much for having me. Always great to be with you.
All right, so let's talk about the Ole Miss Rebels hosting the Georgia Bulldogs. We've been talking about an elimination game this week for not only Ole Miss, but for Alabama or LSU. How you feeling going into this Georgia game? How's the health of this Ole Miss Rebel football team?
Well, there's some places that it's in doubt, and the injury list looks deeper than I think it's actually there. Coach Kiffin's always gambling or weighing on the side of more rather than less, because he doesn't want to get fined, and especially since they're already kind of in the crosshairs over the feigning injuries. And he got hit a few years ago during COVID because he didn't have his mask on right outdoors. So I don't think he wants to give the league any more money for their Christmas party. So he always gives more rather than less and errs on that side on the injury list. There are one or two we're kind of worried about. We got plenty of depth on this team and finally played last week at Fayetteville, Pat, like everybody's been expecting all year. The number of texts during the game is finally, where's this been? It's about time. And everybody felt like that. And the rout at Arkansas that has the Arkansas media, the biggest fanboys in the league, whining that Ole Miss ran it up on them a week after Arkansas scored 58 over Mississippi State. And I'm pretty good with math. I think the only difference between 58 and 63 is 5 points.
Yeah, Brett, what were some of the factors that you noticed that led to Ole Miss maybe meeting the standard, exceeding the standard that most people thought that side of the ball would play with all season?
Offensive line protection up front. Just didn't have it in the loss to Kentucky, and really didn't have it at South Carolina except for some keepers that Jackson Dart was able to get loose on. He never could get loose down at Baton Rouge and until the second half against Oklahoma. And I think something got found, a spark lit at halftime against Oklahoma in the sixth quarter since then. It's been great, but the quality competition goes to the very top. Well, I think most everybody in college football would agree that Georgia, for the last 4 years, has been the top of the sport, and unless you're named Alabama, you ain't beat them.
All right, so let's you've seen this LSU team up close and impersonal, and Alabama is going down there, a place that they've had a great deal of success. What is the areas of concern for you for Alabama to try to get a win, and what's your areas of concern for LSU to come out of there with a win at home for only the second time since 2004 and 2006 against Alabama?
Yeah, the dominance of Alabama really in that series, but it vaunted Tiger Stadium, where it is vaunted for most everybody else, but it hadn't been for Alabama. They've won every way you can win and might have to win in 1979 style with a game-winning field goal about head high from Alan McElroy to win that game and stay on the path to winning a national championship for Coach Bryant that year in a 3-0 mud field game against LSU. And it could be that with the hurricane moving in, but the weather forecasters are starting to break up a little bit for Oxford and for Baton Rouge for the deluge we all were kind of expecting. But I think Alabama, if it's that, it's ball security and Jalen Milroe taking care of the ball. He's a much better quarterback than on the other side. Garrett Nussmeier's a really good player, but he's not Jalen Milroe. He can't do the things that Milroe's done and can do. And I think it's the breakout game this year for Jalen Milroe. He was good up at Wisconsin, and that's been a long time now. And I think it's important for him to get loose with some carries that they just didn't allow Jackson Dart to be able to do that. That film has been analyzed thoroughly by the Alabama coaching staff. And for Kalen DeBoer in this first year, we knew it was going to be different and at times awkward. And it's been those things, but that would be his signature win in his early stint as head coach at Alabama.
Brett, if we get upsets and the home team in both of these, they're the underdog in Ole Miss and LSU respectively. But if both of those teams win on Saturday, who do you give the better shot to make the college football playoff?
I would give it to Alabama because their two losses, the Vanderbilt losses with every week with Vanderbilt, it's looking better. I know if you look at it historically, it's always going to be Vanderbilt. But you got to look at it for this year. And I don't know how Georgia State beat them. If Vanderbilt had that back, they would really be on their way to, just maybe a historic year. and then the other Alabama loss up on Rocky Top, I think that shouldn't be very severely punished. Ole Miss is just not going to be able to escape when they go to resumes, Landrum. You lost as a 16-point home favorite to Kentucky, a Kentucky team that has not won since they left Oxford that day. We've had a time change and a presidential election, and Kentucky still hadn't won again since they left Oxford that day.
No, I'm sorry, and I might have misstated it or misphrased it, but the scenario was Ole Miss winning and LSU winning. Which of those two teams had the greater chance of making a college football playoff?
I'm sorry. Well, that's even easier. LSU, they beat them, and that has to take priority. Just common sense has to prevail. And I think a lot of the election Tuesday night was about common sense. So let's keep it nationally. Let's keep it in college football. A team that won head-to-head, and they both have the same number of losses. Now, the second LSU has one more. That doesn't take the predominance then. But as long as it's 2 loss against 2 loss, whether it's now or whether it's the Sunday morning of Selection Sunday, then I just have to be fair. And the team that won, and then overtime and a good comeback at home, I know all that. But we don't get to play 9 more times like Hugh Freeze would like to play them. I wonder if Hugh Freeze would like to play the entire schedule 9 more times.
I don't think Hugh Freeze he acts like he doesn't even want to coach anymore.
It's messing up his golf game.
It really doesn't, and I can't believe that. I thought he would come back into the league, hair and visor on fire, and it's like a guy that's ready to go to retirement. That's all set. And I know he is financially, but the competitor that I know of Hugh Freeze, and especially on the golf course, my goodness. I mean, you're talking about an emergency 9. He'll play an emergency 29 to finally win that last hole and win all the bets.
That's Brett Norsworthy joining us from WHBQ in Memphis, part of the Ole Miss Rebel Radio Network. All right, the big story this morning, Billy Napier, they're going to give him a lifeline, giving him one more year, apparently. Yep. 15-18, 8-13 in the SEC. Good move, bad move for Florida?
I think bad move for football, good move for Scott Strickland. That headline should really be Scott Strickland gets a stay of execution from Jeremy Foley and Steve Spurrier for another year. They're doing everything they can to prop him up, everything to make that a success, and he just hadn't been in the big sport at Florida, and that is football. Yes, he's nailed it, I think, with Todd Golden in basketball and the spring and Olympic sports, including baseball. While important, it's not as important as football. Let's don't all lie to ourselves. And Scott is almost too big to fail. They just will not let it happen. The headline should read, Scott Strickland gets another year at Florida, and in small print, so does Billy Napier.
You nailed your I Ain't Scared bold prediction. We gave you credit for the win because you did have Vanderbilt over Auburn, and very impressive with your pick. Now 6-5 on the season here on the air. Is that correct?
6-5, and last week I said by 2 touchdowns. Only got there by 10 points, double digits. I'll take it.
Absolutely. All right, where are you going this weekend?
Where do you think I'm going? I'm going to where I already am. I'm already in Oxford for Thursday night, sponsor festivities and things like that. And I'm taking Ole Miss, and not only am I taking Ole Miss, I ain't scared at all. I'm taking Ole Miss 35-17 over the Georgia Bulldogs.
Whoa! Wow!
He doesn't drink anymore, ladies and gentlemen. So before you text him the show.
Only Coca-Cola and ginger ale. As one of my nephews told me, he said, Brett, no wonder your health's a wreck. You hate milk and you hate water.
All right, before I let you go, I want to take you back in time. Can I do that, friend? Can I take you back?
Please do.
I want to take you back to 2015 on this date. Do you remember where you were?
Okay.
2015 on this date?
I think was that the night Laquan broke his ankle against Auburn?
Oh, man, that was Arkansas converting on a wild lateral.
Oh, that was Hunter Henry play.
Yeah, 4th and 25.
In Arkansas. And that's what I tell all those crybabies in the media at Arkansas, not their fans. The biggest crybabies are their media, especially those stats at 247. Every time they show that Hunter Henry play, please don't ever say anything about running it up on Arkansas, because that cost Ole Miss Atlanta. Ole Miss or Arkansas went to the Liberty Bowl that year, and Saturday when Ole Miss, if they did run it up on Arkansas, it may have kept them out of Shreveport. I don't need to hear anything from Arkansas when all I see up there is the Hunter Henry play.
You know what's crazy is those signature moments and those types of games that we remember as diehard college football fans here in the South, Brett. I remember exactly where I was. I was at a gas station because I just realized that my blinker, my turn signal was out of my truck, and I was getting out to change it, and I left the radio on full blast listening to that, and I couldn't believe it.
It was incredible.
Well,
Ole Miss was
either.
Ole Miss was number 18, and Arkansas ends up beating them. What was it, 53-52? I think that's right.
Yeah, made the 2-point play.
Yep.
Brandon Allen threw it, I think, to Alex Morgan, maybe. I know the late Alex Collins played great in that game, and Hunter Henry played well. Now, it was 45-45 going to overtime. Should have never allowed that many points to Arkansas, but did that day. And Hugh Freeze at the time wanted to argue that Marquise Haynes had Hunter Henry's, had him stopped, had forward progress stopped, but the play played on, and they won it in wild fashion and kept Ole Miss out of Atlanta that year. Would have gone and a wild, thrilling finish. And it was the only time, that day's the only time I've ever cursed on the air at all, even the little bitty ones. David Kellum throws it to me for postgame, and he said, Brett, this one really stings. I said, stings? This one hurts like hell. So I guess if you're going to cuss on the air, hell's the one to say.
Yeah.
Well, you can say, they say it in church. It's okay to say it on the air.
That's really have a church different. But I was at the church of college football that day. That's
There you
kind
go.
of the same, isn't it?
That's right. Well, listen, Brett, as always, appreciate your time. Enjoy the game this weekend. Stay dry, and we'll catch up with you next week.
We will try. Thank you so much. And next week, Landon, we got to batten down our plans for you coming to Memphis with the Blazers on Friday night.
I know it. Playoff football might interfere, but we will see. High school playoff football. Yeah, I will check with you early in the week.
I got a Tiger basketball seat, feet on the wood though, for Friday night.
Oh man,
How about that? See,
that's amazing.
Brett took care. Brett hung out with Molly at the NCAA basketball tournament.
Oh, I have no
And her
question.
parents?
And her parents, and was ready to take care of you.
No, and I'm ready to do it. It's the high school football season, and you know as well as I do.
I understand.
I don't know if they would.
And we got to return the favor because Brett has never been to an SEC baseball tournament in Hoover.
Really?
I have not. I've never been to a pitch of SEC baseball. Can you believe that? I've done everything you can do in the SEC except for that and a cocktail party, and I want to do both before I croak.
Well, we will get you hooked
we make
up.
the Hoover thing happen.
The Hoover thing, we will treat you like gold. That will not be a problem.
Or rent you an RV. You can hang out there with all the other
LSU
SEC
fans. Yeah, you and the LSU fans will hang out. That'll be fun.
I meant to take you up on it because I've cleared my budget's clear because Pat and I, we don't have to plan on going to October baseball anymore with our Cardinals.
No, we don't.
We moved Wilson Contreras to first base.
That's big.
Maybe he'll have the same magic when the Cardinals moved Joe Torre from catcher to third. He
base.
won the MVP in '71.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we keep that third baseman that we got. I like him.
I do too.
Travis Darno's available,
But I think
and so is Luke Jackson if y'all want him.
Yeah. But if you're going to get any players for the future, you're going to have to give up everything. It's why I don't think we win 70 games next year.
No, it's going to be tough. Brett, enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
I will.
Thanks, guys.
I will. Thank you so
Appreciate
much,
it.
guys.
That's our good friend Brett Norsworthy, WHBQ in Memphis. My goodness, he landed some
30 gold mine today.
35-17, his prediction, Ole Miss over Georgia.
I was thinking about the election comment. I was thinking about the
I know.
The Arkansas media comment.
I was actually just picking out the highlighted game. We'll continue. 3-man front, Jocks 94.5.
All I got to say is, wow. Brett delivers every Thursday. Hope you enjoy listening to the great Brett Norsworthy.
Is it possible to drop the mic 3 times?
He did
He
during that
did
one.
do that, didn't he?
Wow. I mean, just so much. Go back and download the 3-Man Front podcast because that was fantastic.
Our friends at Dobbs Ford, they're fantastic. Right there on Parkway East, the Goshen family, the entire staff there at Dobbs Ford, the transparency you're going to get, top value for your trade-in, and also they beat any competitor's price. Alabama's largest showroom selection, whether it's the F-150 that I have driven from Dobbs Ford, the Bronco, the Black Diamond Edition from Dobbs Ford. You want to go with a Ford Explorer? How about a Mustang, a Bronco Sport as well? Dobbs Ford, great selection, wonderful family. If you never buy an automobile, you're going to appreciate the experience. Just wonderful folks. Go and see them. DobbsFordBirmingham.com, DobbsFordBirmingham.com, and make sure you tell them that Landrum from Jock 94.5 sent you.
Some really sad news coming in the world of college football is many of you have been following Kirk Herbstreit's dog, Ben, who has become famous over the last few years, accompanying Kirk Herbstreit when he does games. Kirk Herbstreit has shared on social media the last couple of days that his dog has been undergoing some cancer treatments, and unfortunately, he on social media this morning said that the cancer had spread to his dog Ben, and they had to obviously put Ben down. So that is anybody that's had a pet and had to go through that. That is a horrible experience.
One o'clock, 3-man front, Brett Norsworthy. Woo! If you missed that, go to the 3-man front podcast at jocksfm.com. Molotov cocktails all over the place for Brett. Also, Danny Kanell. who sometimes can throw Molotov cocktails, but not anything in comparison to Brett. But he gave us his picks and also discussed the college football playoff and moving forward. Rodney Orr in the 11 o'clock hour as well. And we appreciate you joining us, whether you're joining us in North Alabama in the capital city of Montgomery, or if you're joining us on Jocks TV. Just search YouTube and Jocks 94.5 TV, and you can see Pat's pretty face every single day. Smile. You're smiling.
I'm smiling.
Yeah.
All right, Conrad.
You smile. That's just an all-American smile. You're feeling better now. You are feeling better. He just picked you up out of the dumps.
He did.
You were Mr. Negative Nancy today.
Mm-hmm.
But Brett Norsworthy just picked you up out of the dumps with his prediction of Ole Miss 35, Georgia. Not Georgia State. Not Georgia Tech. Not Georgia Southern. Not Georgia Military. The University of Georgia.
Or West Georgia.
Or West Georgia. Dogs. 35-17. Whew. They'll build him a statue, won't they? Well, when it comes to your technology, don't settle for anything less than a winning team. Evolve IT, they're your trusted local IT partner at Evolve IT. They're your MVPs for all things tech, like network management, cybersecurity, and keeping your business systems running smoothly. No fumbles, no downtime, just expert support right here in Birmingham. 365, 24/7. You call, you're going to have a human being that answers the phone and gets your system up and running. Evolve IT, online at evolvebhm.com. That's evolvebhm.com, or give them a call, 205-749-8970 to score your IT touchdown today. Evolve IT.
So tomorrow, Molly and myself, we will be on the road. We'll be heading down to Mobile as Hewitt-Trussville is playing their first playoff game against Baker High School down at Baker High School. So we will not be here tomorrow. So we wanted to go ahead and do Bet It or Forget It today. So we do this each and every week. If you're new to the program, I pick 5 games, and against the spread or the total, they give me their picks. And so far, what is the standings, Molly, in regards to what we're looking at?
Yeah, what are the standings, Molly?
Let's see. Me and Landrum are tied. 24-26. Conrad, you are 24-25.
Okay, but as wins, we all have the same amount of wins.
Do.
You just ducked out on a game.
So technically a half a game in front.
It is just eating you alive that I played
ducked out on a
smarter,
game.
not harder.
Okay.
You chickened out.
Yeah, totally chickened out.
And it's paying off for me.
Still chickened out.
Yeah,
It's called being smart.
No.
Is it?
Yeah, it is, because I'm winning right
Or being
now.
a coward?
Oh, I'm winning, so.
Connie Van Order. There she is.
You're going 0 for 5 this week, and you know it.
Maybe.
I'll make him pick first.
Not every time.
Every
No, don't change the rules.
time.
Oh,
Like y'all do for me sometimes with things?
It's not the same.
Oh, okay.
All right. This is Bet It or Forget It.
The following is for entertainment purposes only. Listener discretion is advised.
3-man fronts. Bet it or forget
This is
it.
Conrad doing the Miyagi hand rub. Like he's trying to
He's
get
fired up.
friction so he can bring Danielson back to the mat in the All-Valley tournament.
Just feel good about my picks.
Okay, well.
You're up first, buddy.
All right, number 21, Colorado at Texas Tech. Colorado, a 3.5-point favorite. The total is 62.5. Colorado is 5-0 against the spread in conference play this season. The Buffaloes are one of 7 FBS programs to cover every conference game. But Texas Tech, they're 3-0 against the spread as an underdog this season, including 2 wins outright. Let's start with you, Landrum. Are you going to bet it or forget it?
Forgetting it is a bunch of bull junk. Colorado, they got offense. As long as that offense got on the plane and traveled to Lubbock, Texas, Texas Tech has a hard time stopping people. Give me the Buffs. And the non-Florida State University graduate and their head coach, Deion Sanders. Give me the Buffs -3.5.
All right, how about you, Conrad? Bet it or forget it?
Well, this is not going my way because I also like Colorado in the points. If you go and look at, they have a very similar schedule in terms of the teams that they've played so far. Texas Tech dropping a couple of those, getting blown out big time by Baylor being one of those, and all of their common opponents, Colorado has handled them quite easily, whereas Texas Tech has struggled. You're coming off the big win over Iowa State, the emotion of potentially knocking them out of the playoff. Give me Coach Prime and the Buffs.
Uh-oh. I got a bad feeling about this next pick. Molly, bet it or forget it.
Quit looking at my notes.
Why are you doing guns up?
Haha.
I just can't believe Molly's picking Colorado.
I am.
I can't either.
Like Pat said, they've covered in every conference game. I trust Colorado here more than I trust Tech, because Tech has been inconsistent. Plus, Colorado, they're 8th in the country in passing. Tech is 124th in pass defense. So, and like, look, if we're going to be honest here, I don't think anybody expected Colorado and Coach Prime to be in this type of situation this time last year. And, you know, they're still in the Big 12 race. So I think they'll just keep on moving forward this week against Tech.
All right, next game, Florida and Texas. The Longhorns, number 5 in America. They have a 21.5-point spread in this game. 47.5 is the point total. The Gators are 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games. The Gators' longest cover streak since 2018. It's been a minute. Texas, meanwhile, they're 1-4 against the spread in conference play in the Southeastern Conference. Let's start with Conrad. You going to bet it or forget it?
I am going to bet it because that's what real men do. And
now you're acknowledging it. Thank you. All right.
No, I feel really good about this pick, especially if Lagway is able to go. I know he's able to practice this week a little bit. But the Florida defense has really, really impressed me this season. And I think even if offensively they don't have a whole lot going for them, I think they can certainly keep it within 3 touchdowns. So give me Florida plus the 21.5. I think the defense keeps them in it.
All right, Molly, how about you? Bet it or forget it?
I like where you're thinking, Conrad, and I kind of had the same train of thought. But I'm actually going to take the under here just because, I don't know, quarterback position at Florida has been very questionable. And, you know, Texas is coming off of a bye week, but they barely scraped past Vanderbilt last week. Plus, both Texas and Florida, they are outside the top 90 in offensive PPA since week 6. However, they're top 20 in defensive PPA. So I think this will be more of a defensive battle for these two teams, so I like the under.
I'm with you, Molly, in that train of thought, and I think the under is a great pick. But if this game is going under, that means that the Florida Gators are within that number, and that number is massive, and they know that their leader, Scott Strickland, and their football coach, Billy Napier, are secure for the future. Right. Give me the Gators plus the 21.5.
All right, next game, South Carolina. They visit Vanderbilt's wonderful stadium. 28,000 will be in attendance.
First Bank.
South Carolina is a 3.5-point favorite. 45.5 is the point total. The Commodores are 6-0 against the spread as an underdog this season. By far the most cover wins without a non-cover this season. South Carolina 6-2 against the spread this year. Vanderbilt will be the second AP-ranked team to be a home underdog against an unranked opponent this season. Last week, it was Illinois, and they lost outright against Minnesota. Let's start with you, Molly. You going to bet it? You going to forget it?
I'm going to bet it. And I'm going to take South Carolina to cover. Obviously, you know, this could... See, I'm a little scared because Vanderbilt's kind of been a scary team this year, but I like South Carolina to cover here. You know, they're going to become bowl eligible this weekend. So.
You like the Gamecocks?
I do.
All right. How about you, Conrad?
This one's hard because it's really difficult for me to pick against Diego Pavia at home, even if he's banged up. I really wanted to take Vanderbilt to cover the 3.5, but ultimately, I think with how good South Carolina's been defensively, I think kind of similar to the game we saw on the Plains last weekend between Auburn and Vanderbilt, I could see this being a little bit lower scoring, a little bit more of a knockout, drag-out. I'm going the under of 45.5.
I hate agreeing with him, but yeah, I'm going to go the under as well. Not comfortable with South Carolina, even though I'm not comfortable with Vandy, even though they're playing at home, because the trend says that South Carolina has absolutely dominated this series. 29 wins for South Carolina, 4 wins in the history of these two teams matching up. The current win streak is South Carolina, 15 straight. Yee!
Yee!
Give me the under. They're in First Bank Stadium in front of 8,000 Vandy fans.
Number 2, Georgia visits number 16, Ole Miss. The Bulldogs are a 2.5-point favorite. The total is 54.5. If I were to tell you that the worst cover percentage in the SEC is the Georgia Bulldogs,
I believe it.
Yeah.
Because they have Last week, Florida, thank you. But
They are 2-6 against the spread this year, the worst in the Southeastern Conference. Ole Miss, meanwhile, they're 4-2 against the spread as a home underdog under Lane Kiffin. But Georgia is 10-4 against the spread in AP-ranked matchups since the start of the 2022 season. That's tied for the fourth best in all of college football. Let's start with Landrum. You going to bet it or forget it?
it's a weather game. I'm going to have rain. It's an afternoon game. Sorry, Lane. But not under the lights. All due respect to Brett Norsworthy, I just don't see 35-17. But if it does work out that way, if you add those two together, they still stay under the number with the weather, with Georgia's defense, with all of those things, and maybe Lane playing close to the best. I'm going to go with the under in this one. Yeah, Conrad, I can tell. Your face. Yep.
All right, Conrad, you going to bet it or forget it?
I'm going to bet it. I'm going to change my pick.
Good.
Landrum and I have the same pick so far. I don't like that. I like the under as well with the weather. I thought that was going to be a sneaky good play there. However, I'm with Landrum in the mindset of until I see Lane Kiffin win one of these types of games, it is really, really hard. If you're telling me all Georgia has to do is win by a field goal, I know it's on the road. I know they haven't been good covering this year, but they covered big time against Texas, and I think this is another opportunity for them to flex their muscles a little bit. So give me Georgia -2.5.
All right, currently I'm looking at AccuWeather, and it says cloudy with a couple of showers. And then it goes on to add a rain jacket may be needed for the football game.
Ooh.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
No, that's nice, though.
Thanks, AccuWeather.
All right, Molly, you going to bet it or forget it?
You know, I'm going to bet it, and I was also thinking about the under, but I'm with Conrad on this one. I like Georgia to cover the 2.5 because, you know, Georgia, they're not perfect. Obviously, Carson Beck, he has a turnover problem right now. But, you know, they keep on finding ways to win unless they're playing Alabama. I'm with Conrad. We haven't seen it out of Lane yet, and I don't think we will after this weekend, especially up against Georgia. So I like them to cover.
All right, final game of Bet It or Forget It for this week. The 11th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide visits number 14 LSU. The Tide, we're going for 2.5. That's the point spread we're using for this. I think it's up to 3 now, but it's 2.5 in our contest. The point total is 58.5. LSU is 3-1 outright as a home underdog under Brian Kelly. Bama is 4-1 against the spread in its last 4 trips to Baton Rouge. The Tide 5-2 against the spread in its last 7 games when the spread is between +3 and -3. So let's start with Molly. You gonna bet it or forget it?
I'm going to bet it. And I'm not going to shy away from this one, even though I absolutely hate the spread and I'm staying away from it. And we all know I love picking the under, and I'm also going to pick the under in this one. I think this will be more of a, kind of like what I said from one of the games earlier, I think it'll be more of a defensive battle just because I don't know which offense here can be more consistent. I mean, you're going into Death Valley at night. We know that's a challenge, but I don't know. I still have questions around Garrett Nussmeier as well. So I like the under, like a 28-24 type of game. That's just me.
Landrum.
9th time these teams have met on November the 9th. That will be the date Saturday. In Baton Rouge, one team in this series is 5-2-1 on that date, and that team is the Alabama Crimson Tide.
And there it is.
Give me the Tide minus the points.
All right, Conrad.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know where this is going. I like Molly's train of thought. The under is I think a smart play, but I would be doing a disservice to the Alabama fans if I didn't pick straight up. This is going to be a very good game. I'm a little worried. I'll be completely honest with you. Secondary is going to have to step up big time, but Alabama has a very good track record in Death Valley. Garrett Nussmeier loves to turn the ball over, and I think we see more of the defense we saw against Missouri. So give me Alabama minus the 2.5, and my score prediction is Alabama wins 30-24.
30-24. All right, that's this week's Bet It or Forget It on 3-Man front. Best of luck to the 3 of you as it's a very close race as we get closer to the finish line of this college football season. Conrad with a half-game lead over Landrum and Molly.
Yep. A lot of
Chickened out.
Yeah. A lot of last-minute rallies for us. We're still going to stump. We're late in the season.
Yeah, I take back what I said earlier. I don't need you to go 0-5 because that would mean that I would be in a similar boat as you and Don't want that. So best of luck, everybody.
He's playing. You see, he's playing like
I know what he's
prevent
doing.
now.
I know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know what that does?
Yep. Prevents you from winning.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, one company that will not prevent you from winning, and that's Abide Roofing, because you can get a win today by simply calling 205-922-7134. I recommend them 100%. One of the guys in charge over there is my good friend, Travis Lloyd. He put a new roof on my home a few years back, and he did an absolutely amazing job. Earlier this year, Travis gathered a really talented group of guys, and they started Abide Roofing. The Abide Roofing team has tons of experience and industry knowledge. They're using the absolute best materials. I had issues on my roof. I called Travis. He came, and not only did he get on my roof for hours to assess the problem, but then he helped and assisted me with my insurance company, got all that taken care of. The communication was outstanding. The timeline, the budget, everything was done top notch. I recommend them 100%. Call Abide Roofing today, 205-922-7134, or go to their website, abideroof.com. More of the Thursday edition of Three Man Front when we come back on Jocks 94.5.
120, better to forget it. We did it today if you're just joining us. Pat and Molly traveling for high school playoff football tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, 1 o'clock, Kyle Parmley is going to be here to break down all of the big games as round one beginning here in the state of Alabama tomorrow night. Well, it's the 1 o'clock hour, and that means I am popping a top, but it's from our friends at Mystic Beverage, the Lift Blend, which is awesome, especially late in the day or if you just need to get focused. It's got the green coffee bean extract that boosts both body and mind. But not only the lift, they also have the High Hills Delta 9, the Nirvanic, a calm, smooth experience, perfect for unwinding. Also, the High Hills Delta 9, it is available in the 5 milligram and the 15 milligram for a balanced and elevated vibe. How about the Broadway? It's the broad spectrum CBD with Delta 9 for the comprehensive wellness boost, and they have an alcohol alternative as well. Available in delicious flavors like this one, the Southern Berry, the Blood Orange, the Mango, and the Watermelon. You can find all of these products available at your local Piggly Wiggly store. It's mysticbeverage.com. Ask for it if they don't have it, mysticbeverage.com. And if you talk to them, make sure you tell them Landrum from Jack's 94.5 sent you.
So we've had some news come out of Baton Rouge today surrounding the Alabama-LSU game that will be taking place on Saturday night. So first off, we have the game day pickers because College Game Day will be there in Baton Rouge for that game on Saturday. Don't think this is going to come as a surprise to many, but you're going to have two guest pickers. You're going to have a pair of them actually, as Paul Skeens and Livy Dunn will be your guest pickers on College Game Day. I'm sure some people will be very happy about that. Some people maybe not so much, but LSU will be represented there with Paul Skeens and Livy Dunn on College Game Day. And then I think the more interesting announcement is we have found out here in the last hour or so that they will bring back for the Alabama-LSU game, they will have a live tiger on the sidelines in a cage. It will not be free roaming, but it will be there on the sideline. They will bring back the tiger, which had gone away in 2015 with Mike the Tiger.
Right.
You remember that? So they will be...
You got the Tiger Sanctuary, the Habitat, they're on campus, which is really cool to go and see. Or you can go and find some of the YouTube videos of the people that don't know that they're being stalked by the tiger.
Yeah.
And it comes up and it hits the glass.
And it scares the crap out of them. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. And the folks at LSU and what they have there in that habitat, it's amazing. Got to witness it and enjoy it firsthand last year when we traveled to Baton Rouge, or 2 years ago, I guess.
Well, and I mean, the atmosphere, night game in Death Valley, I mean, we all know what it's going to be, but now you add that to the mix, and it's going to be a heck of an atmosphere there on Saturday night, so it's going to be a big game.
We do have folks texting in, and some of these games were not mentioned, and we stay very SEC-centric, especially with Alabama and LSU and Georgia and Ole Miss coming up this weekend, but some other games in responding to the text. This one rolls in and says, for entertainment purposes, what do you have on the Indiana game? And Indiana, they're going to host Michigan. Indiana's been a cover machine, and they've just been beating everybody like they're supposed to. Indiana's a 14-point favorite currently. That's a lot of points, and Conrad and I were discussing it. You'd like it better if there was a half involved?
Yeah, 14.5, Michigan be a pretty good play.
But I look at Michigan, their failure to score points on the offensive side of the ball. The defense is not what it's been. And right now, Indiana just has that mojo going. I'm just going to say, look, until you prove me wrong, I'm rolling with Indiana in the Fighting Kurt Cignetti's at home.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at
minus 14,
if you were to cover the 14, so in Michigan's last 4 games, they scored 17 against Oregon, 24 against Michigan State, 7 against Illinois, and 17 against Washington. So if you look at that and you think Indiana, I mean, if you can get into the low 30s, which hasn't been a struggle for them this year, then you have the cover right there. I understand it's on the road. It's a tough game. Good defense still for Michigan. But
yeah, I could see 31-10 in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I could see even worse than that, though.
Yes, and I think that it's just a case of they haven't let you down so far, so you might as well keep riding it until they let you down.
You know, here's another fun stat for you. There's been 600, and this does not include the MAC games this week, but there were 623 games played in college football. The favorites are under 500. The underdogs have hit almost 53% of the time this year. The home teams are actually 13 games under 500. So if you're an underdog and you're on the road, you're having really good success so far this year. And that's a pretty good sample size to say the very least. Underdogs are winning at a 52% clip, and the home teams are only winning 49% against the spread.
Does it give a stat on home underdogs? But you just said underdogs, period, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that for road or just in general underdogs?
The favorites are a 48% winning percentage as a favorite, whether you're on the road or at home. Home teams are 13 games under 500.
I've played a lot more totals this year than I've played in the past.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is just because of the parity in college football this year. It's really hard to
And the
gauge
fickle
some of these
nature
games.
that it just seems like
And
so hard.
Of the 47 games played last week, the home team was 20-27 against the spread.
Do you have a lean on the Indiana-Michigan game? Indiana minus 14?
I'm like Brian Edwards. I am taking Indiana, and I'm taking Indiana, the Commanders, until they absolutely, go the other direction.
Gavin says he thinks Brett might be right this week. If Carson Beck doesn't figure it out, it could be ugly. It's fair.
Ugly?
Do we get the Ole Miss offense that we saw against, I don't know, give me an example.
Like early in the season against like Kentucky?
Kentucky, do we get an Ole Miss offense that, what did they end up scoring against Oklahoma? Because Oklahoma was able to keep that thing.
Yeah, I think high 20s, low 30s.
Under for a while. They won 27-3 at South Carolina. I just go back to Kirby. He's going to be dialed in, especially because it's Lane. It's a prolific offense. I think that they felt like the Florida game, just mentally, psychologically, that was going to be. I feel like this is one of those games that they circled prior to the start of the season.
Yeah, and I just think it's interesting how if you look at Alabama, LSU, and Ole Miss and Georgia, it's all cases of, are we getting the versions of these teams that we saw last or the versions we got earlier? Because if it's Alabama, you hope you get the version you saw against Missouri. But if it's LSU, you're hoping you get the team you saw against Arkansas a couple weeks ago. It's the same thing for LSU or Ole Miss and Georgia.
I could totally see this being a 20-17. With the weather that we have, that's scheduled for Oxford, I could see this being a 20-17, and I don't know. I still like Georgia, but I like the under in that game.
All right. Well, our next guest, I know he's got a player or two that he'd like to talk to us about. From VegasMistake.com, Kevin Todd joins us here on Three Man Front. Kevin, I hope you're doing well on this Thursday.
Yes, you are. Now, if you remember last week, I came on the show and I said I had a 7-point dog.
That's right.
That was going to win outright. We gave out Vanderbilt plus the points, and they won the game outright.
Big time. Absolutely. Well, let's start. VegasMistake.com is the website. Kevin Todd's been hot as fire on this program. So let's start with the big one we've been talking about a lot this week, and that's Alabama against LSU. Bama currently a 3-point favorite on the road against the Bengal Tigers.
Well, before I talk about that Alabama, let me tell your listeners what I got going this weekend. Let me tell you, I have 5 games, folks, that I absolutely love this weekend, and it's for only $99. All you have to do is go to VegasMistake.com, go right to the website, sign up, or give me a call at 866-441-2711. That's VegasMistake.com. VegasMistake.com. 5 games for $99. And as always, folks, if I don't show you a profit, but I guarantee I win. But if I don't, you get the rest of the month for free on me. And let's talk about this Alabama game. Right now, I believe the line is -3, and the total is 58. In my opinion, guys, I think the odds makers, they got this game perfectly set where it could be a 3-point game either way, and the team with the ball last, I believe, is going to win the game. That being said, I absolutely love the total in this game right now. The Alabama defense is not the same since Saban has been gone. And LSU, if you remembered last time, they were holding pretty much A&M to nothing, and then A&M in the second half, when they replaced the quarterback, torched them. I see this game being close or even being over the total by halftime. I see a lot of scoring here. I think 58 is a gift. Give me over 58 in the Alabama LSU game.
All right, that is over 58 in Bama LSU. Go to vegasmistake.com or call them at 866-441-2711. 5 games, $99. That's what Kevin Todd's got going on this weekend. All right, let's go to the NFL. The Cowboys, they're struggling right now, Kevin. No doubt about that. They're taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. You got a thought or two on that one?
Well, when this game first opened up, the total opened up at 48.5, and since Dak is not playing, the line has dropped 5 points to 43.5. In my opinion, gentlemen, they weren't scoring with Dak, and they're definitely not going to score without Dak. The fact that they can't stop the run, I see a lot of running here by Philadelphia, which is going to eat up a lot of clock. I know Parsons is coming back, which will help them on defense for a pass rush, but I don't see many points being scored here for Dallas. I could see them winning this game easily, 28-0 Philadelphia. I really like the under here, and I'm going to tell you why. Let me tell you, the Eagles they're 1-7 to the under as road favorites of 7 points or more, and they're also 1-4 to the under before a division home game. Dallas, they're 1-3 to the under before a Monday night game. Folks, I like the under here. Philly's going to want to control the ball. They can't run the ball, Dallas. We know that. They're going to want to throw it. They're going to just come after the quarterback, Philadelphia. I think they're going to get at least 4 to 5 stacks. I think the under is a huge play here at 43.5. So give me the under here in the Dallas-Philadelphia game. But more important, folks, like I said before, I have 5 plays this weekend that I absolutely love, and I guarantee I'm going to show you a profit or the rest of the month is free. All you need to do is go to vegasmistake.com and sign up, or give me a call, 866-441-2711.
All right, Kevin, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. That is Kevin Todd, the number 866-441-2711, or go to vegasmistake.com. That is Kevin Todd, joins us each week here on Three Man Front. More of Three Man Front on this Thursday, Jocks 94.5. It is 1:36, Jocks 94.5, the Paul Feinbaum Show coming up at the top of the hour. I'm sure he will have plenty more previews as we get closer to Alabama, LSU, and Georgia on the road against Ole Miss.
Well, if you need a great place to watch those games this weekend, you want to catch Thursday night football going on tonight, whatever it may be, head on into Twin Peaks and Hoover because, of course, they have plenty of screens for you to catch all the games. They have their 29-degree man-sized draft, their fabulous cocktail menu, craft beer selections, their wonderful menu, whether you want their great wing offerings, their burgers, their new flatbread sandwiches, their quesadilla tacos, whatever it is you're looking for, you can find it at Twin Peaks and Hoover and catch all of the games while you're at it. Go visit them in Hoover this weekend.
So Conrad was telling us a few minutes ago about the big announcement coming out of LSU that Mike the Tiger, actually it's just going to be a live tiger. It's not going to actually
Yeah,
be
I don't know
Mike.
if it has a name or not, but
Yeah, just they're bringing in an extra tiger
yes.
around it. And, you know, decades ago, LSU used to station a live tiger outside of the visitors' locker room.
Good
And then
intimidation.
and they would feed the tiger a ribeye. And so when they would come out of the visiting locker room, there would be a tiger with blood all over its mouth, ripping apart some type of meat to try to intimidate
Yes.
the opposing team. I think next year, Alabama should get a live elephant and put a live elephant outside the LSU locker room.
That sounds safe.
See, the thing that
has been talked about so much, and it would be so cool. I just don't. Logistically, how do you transport an elephant?
It could be a baby elephant.
Yeah, but nope.
No, you got to be.
Yeah,
it's gotta be
I need a full. I need. Yeah, I need it to trample some people if they get it. If it gets out of
Wow.
line.
I thought Conrad was going to say we don't need gimmicks at the University of Alabama.
I thought so too.
Well, we don't, but it would be. I mean, an elephant walking down University Boulevard before a game at the Walk of Champions. That would be a logistical nightmare, but it would be very cool to see.
So
Maybe Nick Saban could ride on top of it and.
So again, it's not Mike the Tiger because Mike's going to stay in his habitat.
Correct.
So they're renting a tiger.
I'm assuming they have more than one tiger at the at their tiger sanctuary, correct? On campus, or do they only have the one?
I thought it was just the one.
Oh, I thought that
I don't know,
least
maybe
had
it
a
is
friend.
You know, the governor of the state has one. He is the one that's been pushing to have the tiger back outside of the locker room. And there have been animal rights activists that have been against it because they don't want 100,000 people screaming and yelling to freak out a tiger, which makes sense.
Yes. Okay. So here we go. This is coming from LouisianaSports.net. Okay. So it will not be Mike the Tiger. Mike the Tiger will stay in his sanctuary during the game. Instead, they have facilitated for the delivery of a tiger from an out-of-state refuge to be on the sidelines for the game. So you were correct.
So they're not worried about that tiger being freaked out. They're just more worried about Mike the Tiger. That's the part I don't understand.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. I don't know. I guess not their tiger, not their problem.
Should Hugh Freeze bring a live tiger?
How about just an offense with a pulse?
You already got the eagle.
Yeah, the eagle's flying around.
Can you use tramadol on tigers? I wonder. Surely they give him some kind of.
Is that a sedative?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's call Tiger King. He's in jail right now. I'm sure he'll take a call.
Let's see. Use of. Okay. Yes. Apparently you can. You can give it to tigers and lions.
And bears.
Hey, get Carol Baskin on the phone.
And you can give it as an oral. Okay. Anesthetic.
Yeah, I would prefer not having to put it inside the tiger's mouth myself.
Open it up
I mean, I guess
wide.
you would put it in meat, but
Just put it on your arm.
We're gonna rub a little bit here on your gums.
yeah, be like, you're
You're gonna be just fine.
I'm gonna take the tranquilizer gun option. I think if I'm having to sedate a tiger,
And do you have that guy that's standing by?
I would assume you would have to.
Like, what's his? Forget the actor's name that was in Old School, and he's at the birthday party.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Where Will Ferrell shoots himself with the horse tranquilizer.
You guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. He's got a dart in his neck.
All right, we'll do some Pat Ponders when we come back on this Thursday. This is Jocks 94.5.
$145 here on this Thursday edition of Three Man Front. Thanks for joining us. Pat Ponders coming up in just a moment. If you have an older roof, you were thinking it may need to be replaced, you got to listen up. Our friends at Roof Max of Hoover have a professional and affordable roof treatment scientifically proven to reduce the aging process of your asphalt roof. Roof Max resaturates your old, dirty, dry shingles with a natural bio-friendly treatment that gives you 5 more years of protection guaranteed. So instead of paying all of that money out of pocket to replace your existing roof, pay pennies on the dollar. Roof Max of Hoover. Get the free roof assessment today. Call or text them 205-913-2243. That's 913-2243. Use promo code JOCKS for the 10% discount. Get the free roof assessment. Make sure you tell them Landrum from Three Man Front sent you. 5 questions from Pat. We'll try to answer. This is what we call Pat Ponders.
I want to know what you're thinking. Tell me what's on your mind.
It's time for Pat Ponders.
Brought to you by Courtesy GMC in Trussville. Go by and visit them. Exit 32. You got Black Friday all month long of November. They're at Courtesy GMC. Go by and see their great deals or visit them online at courtesybirmingham.com. Question number 1. LSU averages 100 yards rushing as a team during SEC play. Bama allows 145 yards per game. Does LSU, in your opinion, rush for over 125 yards against the Tide, rushing?
No.
I'm also going to go no.
I think they're going heavy pass in this game.
I was about to say, I say no, and I think we talked about it earlier. I think if you're Alabama, you sell out, stop the run, and make Nussmeier throw the ball 50, 60 times. And if he doesn't throw any interceptions and you lose, then so be it. But yeah, I don't think they.
So that's your game plan if you're Womack?
For me personally, yeah, I'd be aggressive, put pressure on Nussmeier, and make him beat you and not turn the ball over.
Yep.
Because he has not done that against Ole Miss or A&M, even though they did beat Ole Miss.
All right, question number 2. Who will face the most criticism with a loss on Saturday? Brian Kelly or Lane Kiffin?
Oh, no, it's going to be Brian Kelly. Because LSU fans, just based on the history, where Alabama is already coming in with 2 losses, what this team was able to do as a 13 and a half point dog a couple of years ago, being at Tiger Stadium, the realization that they're going to miss a college football playoff, it's going to be LSU fans.
Yeah, I just don't know how many people are really expecting more from Lane in the sense of if he wins, that's great, but you're playing with house money. I don't think that many people are really expecting this to be the breakthrough for him. But with Brian Kelly, I mean, you would now be looking at another season where you can win 9 games, and that's great, but you're on the outside looking in at the playoff, and you couple that with you got the win a couple of years ago. There's no Bryce Young. Last year, you got upset about Jaden Daniels getting hit too hard, and you lose by 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, I don't think the fan base is going to be very happy if you're looking at another 9-3 or even 8-4 season.
Yeah, it's Brian Kelly, especially if you lose to a 2-loss Alabama team that's still fighting to get to the. And plus, you lose at a night game in Death Valley
For the first time.
Right. LSU fans are not going to be happy about that.
He's 13-0. Night games.
For now.
Okay.
No, I agree.
Question number 3. As of today, who wins the worst SEC Coach of the Year award?
I feel bad, but I'll be honest, I'd probably give it to Venables.
Why do you feel bad?
Because I feel like part of that situation, I mean, having 5 wide receivers out with injury is a very difficult thing for anybody to overcome. But the fact that you never have figured out any semblance of a competent offense, and I know he's a defensive guy, but he puts the staff together. They have been horrible offensively.
Yes, and right there with you. And the fact that we pointed it out, but nobody wanted to point out the fact or acknowledge the fact that you had Jackson Arnold. You're putting all your eggs in this guy's basket. I don't care if he was a 5-star in high school. Look how much game experience he had. You're entering SEC play. They were ranked preseason. And in some people's eyes, a dark horse for the college football playoff. It's Venables.
I agree. It's Venables.
A clean sweep for Venables.
Yeah, I thought about throwing Stoops in there, but that win over Ole Miss, that kind of,
They're saving.
Got to give them credit for that one. Yeah.
All right, question number 4. These 4 teams are considered the bottom of the bucket in the Power 4. Rank them from best to worst. California, 4-4. Florida State, 1-8. Mississippi State, 2-7. Purdue, 1-7. Rank them from best to worst. Cal, Florida State, Mississippi State, Purdue.
My immediate thought is I would have, and I understand head to head, I would probably go Florida State last because they play in the easiest conference and you're still only 1-8. And I know you have the win over Cal, and I'm going to have Cal ahead of them. But in my opinion, the officiating in that game bailed them out and is the only reason that they have. That one's tricky for me. So I'd go FSU last. I'd go Purdue in 3rd place, I guess. I'll give them credit for playing in the Big Ten, even though they are abysmal this year. Mississippi State, I will put in 2nd because they are playing in the SEC and they have showed competitiveness against some of the top teams in the conference, even if they're still a ways away from being a factor in the conference. And then I would go Cal.
So Cal's your best?
Yes, I think Cal's the best. I also think Cal should have a win over Miami.
So did you go Cal?
Oh, sorry. From best to worst, Cal, Mississippi State, Purdue, Florida State worst.
How about you, Molly?
I have the same exact ranking, Conrad. Cal, Mississippi State, Purdue, and then Florida State last. Sorry, Danny.
I got Cal first.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go Mississippi State second, Purdue third, and FSU fourth.
Uh-oh. I'm already getting... Conrad, you're already off somebody's Christmas list.
Oh, is FSU Dave not happy with me?
He's not happy at all. And now Landrum's going to be off his list, too.
What about Molly? She had the same thing. No, you're not getting out of this one. No. Ah, sorry, Dave. Who does Dave think is the worst? Purdue?
They're pretty bad, too.
I mean, they are. All of these teams are bad.
Right.
But hey, Cal, 4-4. I mean, if you're the fourth worst team in Power 5 and you've got, or Power 4 and you got 4 wins, that's.
What are the 4 against Auburn?
I wasn't going to go there, but yes.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Everybody else saw it.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's not like we're breaking any news here.
I'm trying to be nice, Landrum.
No.
I'm trying to be nice.
Pour it on.
I know, but I don't need to.
You're on his list, too.
I need to
Yeah,
put
you're
good
done.
energy out there for Saturday, Landrum.
Said Purdue's the worst.
They are pretty bad.
I mean, yeah, it's a coin flip. Okay, Dave, FSU is only the second worst Power 4 team in college football this year. Does that have a better ring to it? Because I don't really think that it does.
All right. Final question of the day. Do you view the length of a 4-year term for president just right, too long, or too short?
Depends on who the president is. I'm just kidding.
That was what I was going to say.
Just right.
I've honestly never thought about this before.
I haven't either.
4 years, okay, somebody
Yeah, 4 years.
along the way. I mean, that sounds.
You got congressmen in there for 2. You got senators in there for 6. You got presidents in there for 4.
I might say.
Is it just right, too long, or too short?
I think 4 years is just right, but I might. Maybe there's some sort of provision you could put in there based on, you know, how much you won the previous election by, that maybe you could get a third term if you were. Because, I mean, if we have an amazing president, I think we would all agree, like, yeah, why would we not want to keep them in there? Granted, I don't know if you've had one of those recently, but I would be more interested in having an option for a third term.
I would have
than
voted for
expanding
Reagan to go another 4. I think most of America would have as well.
Exactly.
But do you think 4
I think 4, though.
is
I
fine?
think 4.
4's fine.
Yeah.
2 seems too short. Like, doesn't feel like you could accomplish everything you wanted to in 2 years.
Yeah, it depends on how much you got to clean up in year 1. And then if that only gives you year 2, and then at that point, you're already starting to campaign again. And goodness gracious, no thank you.
I was about to say, you don't want to expand it to 6 years, because then what if you have a bad president? Like, you really want to be stuck in that for 6 years?
Fair.
No, I think 4 is good.
All right, that's today's Pat Punters, brought to you by Courtesy GMC and Trustful. CourtesyBirmingham.com is the website.
Let's go to your phone calls first. Robbie is in Birmingham. Robbie, what's up?
Hey, guys. Hey, quick trivia question. Who's the only president to serve 3 terms, you know?
Well, that would be Roosevelt, right?
That's correct.
Correct. Yep, FDR. Good job. Yeah, just wanted to comment on the Mike the Tiger thing. I think it's great, by the way. I think it brings an awesome element to the game. The kids are going to love it, of course. You know, going to UNA as a kid, we used to have the lion in a cage, and they would literally put him right by the fence, and these little kids would just beat the crap out of the cage, and the lion was just, you knew at any moment, like if that thing got out, like it was over. But it was just awesome to have him on the sideline. It was just gave it another element. So I think it's cool, and it's gonna be exciting.
Robbie, thank you for the phone call. Let's go to Steve. He's in Birmingham. Wants to talk LSU Bama. Steve, what's up?
20 years ago, I had a date with an Auburn grad and sat in Jordan here with her parents, who were both Auburn grads. Saw that beautiful eagle fly, which I've only seen once, which it is. After it was concluded, we sat down and said, that was beautiful. I said, you know, we tried that at Alabama, but an insurance company would not cover us for the casualties but it was one-time attempt that we tried it.
Oh wow!
And, yeah, they didn't buy it either. I think this thing about the Tiger is much like Kamala getting the Avengers on a Zoom call, Taylor Swift, and all these people to endorse. That's what kind of much ado about nothing, in my opinion. Let me ask you a question: is Nussmeier considered an athletic quarterback?
I mean, he's not a
he's
running
a pocket
quarterback.
passer,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
what
he's
you're
a
asking.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so we've lost most of the time. We lose to an athletic quarterback and get out and run. So I'm hoping that's the only thing that's going to, and then we're going to pressure him and we'll run, and then we'll beat these guys and keep them on their heels. That's what I'm hoping. I'm kind of hoping with Conrad on that as well.
Steve, thanks for the phone call. You consider Quinn Ewers an athletic quarterback?
Deceptively fast.
Conversation for another day. Paul's next.